Good to go. Okay. Good evening, folks. So we're a bit late because we just had a public meeting, but we also had some technical difficulties. So we're back in action here. Armour Township is situated on the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe. Armour Township recognizes the historical and contemporary contributions of the local First Nations and the people of Turtle Island. Also have another announcement to make based on a council meeting, 2 council meetings ago, I believe. We now are doing video recording of these sessions. So I'm going to read this out as well so that everybody understands what that means to anybody who's in the audience or either here or there. This disclaimer is to inform all participants that this meeting conducted in person and via Zoom will be recorded for record-keeping purposes. By participating in the meeting, you consent that the recording may contain your video stream, including images of yourself, your audio stream. This includes any opinions you contribute. Anyone attending the recorded meeting may have aspects of their personal data recorded if they actively participate or not. By staying in the meeting, you consent to being recorded. By consenting and attending the meetings virtually or in person, participants also agree to recordings being posted to YouTube or other distribution services. So that's our latest foray, but I think it'll be good. Okay, first up, gotta find my resolutions. Council Township of Armour approves the minutes of the public meeting held on March 11th, 2025 as circulated. They're gonna move her, Rod, Jerry, all those in favor and carried. Council of Township of Armour approved the minutes of the regular council meeting held on March 11th, 2025 as circulated. A mover. Get Dorothy and Wendy on the board. All those in favor? Carried. Do we have any declarations of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof based on tonight's agenda? Okay, none noted. All right, we're gonna hit the ground running with the budget. So our delegation for this evening is Alice McGregor, our treasurer, and we have our plan binders in front of us for those in the studio audience. And we're gonna go through the budget. Or just go through questions or entertain questions.
Yeah.
Okay. So as usual, it's extremely well organized, well thought out. I think most of the questions that I had, I've kind of answered myself as I went through it a couple of times. But is there anything anyone else wants to bring up?
I looked to see how many stickies Wendy had. I was like, how many questions do we?
Good news is I came in and went through it all without her. So I don't have very many. My only comment is I'm very concerned about the increase at 4.39%. I would like to see us try and get that down to no more than 3%. I think it's a tough time to ask people to come up with medicine property taxes.
And I looked at it in regards to the generator. And I thought we discussed fixing the door. Only because it is propane and that was sort of a one-off. It's worked for a long time with no problems. I think it doesn't matter what, it could be a car parked there and we'd still have the same thing if we don't fix that door. I think that's paramount. And that's 30 grand right there.
That was coming in.
As Ellison said, it's capital, I get it.
Yeah.
But it's still out of one pot into another. I think it's something we should look at.
And I was having trouble finding something that I thought would equate to 1% because a lot of the things I was concerned about were coming out of reserves. That being said, we're decreasing our reserves, so.
So I did talk to Dave Creaser today, because we removed the reclamite for Ferguson Road out of the budget and put that full budget into gravel roads. And he doesn't think he needs 185,000 in gravel roads. He does want to change the lift to a 3-inch lift instead of a 2-inch lift, because he did say that a 2-inch lift isn't even standard. A 3-inch lift is standard to maintain your road. A 4-inch lift is when you start increasing your capital for the road. So he wants to do a 3-inch lift on the roads, but he wants to get a better idea of what roads actually needed. So I did drop the gravel road to 145,000. And that put me to 3.21% increase instead. So I can take 40,000 out of that budget. Because he said 145,000 would be good, and I'm applying 80,000 from OSIF funding to the gravel roads. It was 80,000 for gravel roads when the reclamite was in for Ferguson, and we were pulling the full 80 from OSIF. I have 270 roughly in OSIF funding, so I could pull more from OSIF as well. Instead of 80, I could pull more and offset that cost.
That would potentially get us down to the.
And that would get us down, if you want it at 3, like I got it to 3.21. I did tweak a couple other numbers. There was our GIS system, our budget, we don't have the CBO module anymore because we've been using Cloud Permit for a couple of years now, but we were budgeting with GIS with the CBO module, so I'm saving 3,000 in that budget. And I dropped Danica's training budget in half and put it to 3,500 instead of 7,000. That's a whole new, she's never had a training budget before for the rest of. I was, yes. So I have a few things that I could work with. Danica wasn't sure on the training. I think I'd like to start her with leadership training. I had talked to Dave about that before. Start her in some kind of leadership training, and then maybe in years to come, focus on training for other staff. So that's why I dropped it in half. So but I can do those tweaks, and I can work with Dave Creaser on that number for the gravel roads.
And speaking with the KCC, there was a lot of monies being spent in regards to the roof.
Yeah, and
And the soccer fields, what was that, 190 something dollars?
that is pretty much based on a grant. So
Okay.
there's the restructure grant.
So it's sort of one that, okay, if we get the grant, okay, fine, and if not, we'll drop it type deal?
Type deal, yes. So the grant is a minimum of a 50% grant. So we've put it in at, that's all we're gonna get, but she could potentially get up to 90% funding.
Right,
So we put it in at the lowest at 50%,
okay.
just in case, and then pulled the rest of the funds out of reserves if you decide to do those projects. Based on,
I just thought it was too much all at once.
It was a lot.
We have spent an enormous amount of money on the KCC. If we do that, if like
Yeah.
we just built the rink and then we redid the KCC and now roof over the rink, is quite significant in 5 years.
yeah, and I couldn't, like, you guys tell me if you want me to pull it out, I can pull it out.
I think the rink will be utilized a lot more if we can put a roof over it, for sure.
My concern with budgeting to put a roof over it, and I know we're talking pulling out of reserve, so it doesn't necessarily impact the increase, is that the actual concrete structure that was put in for the ice pad was not engineered. We know we've got issues with drainage and where it sits. So I would really hesitate to be building and engineering a roof over that if we're not sure what the long-term integrity of that concrete pad
Well,
is.
the concrete pad's fine. If you were to put a roof over it, Rod, you can back me up in this, you put your pillars outside the pad.
Yeah, I
Footings, right?
Yeah,
that would happen, but
similar to Magna one.
do we know this, do we know the integrity of the pad itself?
Well,
It would only enhance it. Like if somebody come in and said your pad was a category, I'm just throwing out just a 6, and the life expectancy will be 25 years. Having a roof over it would enhance it because it's not under the elements.
So in the spirit of looking at things across the Algonquin Highlands, Perry Township is putting in a $4 million rink upgrade in Novar. And they expect to have it done this year. So it's not like it's just a dream. They expect to have that done with the roof and the whole 9
They
yards.
already have a rink, so are they going to expand their
They're gonna
current?
tear down, no, they're taking down the old rink and putting up, it's all new.
Well,
And they're putting in piping so that they can actually,
Wow.
they can freeze it and you can play outside when it's 8 degrees Celsius. So my selfish need to want to invest money in the community wellness building over here as opposed to something, if we have something else in the community that serves that purpose, then why are we doubling up?
Mhm.
When we could be doing something else that maybe nobody else is thinking of doing at this
yeah,
point.
let's put up a net and then we'll back off on the roof.
I could see fixing up the baseball diamond,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but the
Didn't
roof,
spend any money on that.
yeah.
And she did inform me today that she's pretty sure she got the Jay's funding grant.
So that'll help on the baseball side.
Yeah, so I don't know what all that pays for yet. She thinks it's like like a baseball team jerseys, all that stuff, and just to get the ball program up and
To get
running.
the
Does it
program.
look like a jump start sort of thing?
Kind of, she did apply for Jumpstart as well.
There's, if we get the upgrade, they pay 65% of an upgrade for the field, but they also do like just equipment. I don't know, $5,000 worth of equipment, like baseball bats, baseballs, all that stuff. But then you can also get that would be amazing if we got that, because that's 65% of whatever it is. So.
How much money is in our tax and lieu of for recreation and whatnot?
Parkland?
Parkland, yeah. I forgot to look at that, but there could be money there we could use, right?
In our park, like our cash and lieu parkland account,
Yeah,
like $28,000.
not very much. Okay.
But you have to allocate it 60% of it a year, right, to use, you have to spend it.
I personally agree with Rod, but I'd
Yeah, so
rather,
we can spend that on Wendy wants stuff at Halcyon Beach.
John forgot to put in the budget. but-
Yeah, I wasn't told about that.
She has to get 3 votes.
Anything they-
Yeah, we have to, it's in the planning.
Go ahead, Rob.
Did we spend it last year in 2024?
I don't know.
We did, we purchased, the property, I don't mean to point, the lake on the Doe Lake property? No?
The 3 Mile Lake.
Mile Lake.
Yeah,
Make into
either last year or the year before. Yeah, you're right. We did use some of the money for that.
Well, and you have the garbage bins that are the one garbage, but we only
Right.
ordered one this year. Because they've gone up, way up in price,
Bear-proof one.
the bear proof ones,
They're like
because
$4
Doe Lake Park needs them, and then the renovations at Doe Lake Park washrooms. Mhm.
Yeah, the only issue I have really, I think everything else needs to be done in that capital budget at KCC that I was.
I can't find the KCC in here.
The capital budget would be under park capital.
Yeah, just the door rink. I think everything else probably. should be done.
Well,
Capital budget's always like.
We could. Let's get it down to. Nothing higher than 3%, whatever you have to.
It's a good number. Rod, you had a question?
no, just a comment. I agree with you. I'd rather put my money into a medical facility as opposed to a roof.
Especially if a $4 million arena 15 minutes away is
Yeah.
significant.
That's an outdoor, that's not an outdoor.
It's an outdoor rink with they're using the gel piping so they said you can play on it at 8 degrees Celsius.
Is that funded by a grant?
They're going after grant money, but apparently they're building it. They're gonna start
How
it.
would they feel about building it in Amsterdam?
Well, they did Emsdale already. Community
And
center.
I looked up their tax increases 4% from.
They were
what I could find
4%,
today.
yeah. Yeah, but they were 8 last year.
Mm.
They were pretty high last year.
Yeah, there's a few townships that are between
Yeah.
7 and 8 this
That
year.
wouldn't surprise me. I just, if we can, we're gonna try and be 2-3% if we can, so.
Oh, and I did look, CPI right now for February was 2.6 for all of Canada and 2.7 for Ontario.
I think, given some of the dirt that we've stirred up this year, a good news story would be Helpful, 3% doesn't sound too bad.
I think if we keep it around there, I'm quite happy. I was already in teasing earlier on today, gotta find 40 grand.
I did. So I can increase the OSIP funding a little bit, with the roads and, because I got it down to 3.21, so I can get it down a little bit more. By increasing that and make it 3,
2.99.
like 2.99.
We need to find 8 more grand, Allison.
Number, if it's under 3, it's not 3.
Years ago, we used to use a lot of granite on our roads and I never thought to ask Dave what his concept on that was. Some of the other townships used to use granite. And it was a tremendous savings over the years, but Keith got away from that. It'd be nice to know what Dave has to think about that.
Yeah, I think Strong has put granite back on Pevensey Road.
Yeah, I just drove it the other day
'Cause it's-
and
It was god awful. You couldn't even
or
drive.
not, sorry, not, I was on the other side of Pevensey.
I'm talking the back way from my place. You don't.
I went from Sunridge all the way around and that road has improved a lot.
Oh, yeah. They did all kinds of ditching and I think it was granite they put on it.
Yeah.
They-
Make a note, Jerry, to follow up with Dave.
Yeah, I
Because,
would like to revisit that again, just get with his expertise and whatnot, it'd be good to know.
because the arena is under Burke's Falls, do we have input for the budget?
You did at the tri-council.
That was the tri-council.
I'm looking at it very specifically right now and defibrillator batteries, 750, 2029, and the EMS will pay for that one, will they not?
Probably not.
At the
Defibrillator?
itself.
Everywhere. I thought EMS would cover first aid supplies
I don't think so.
You'd have to ask at the tri-council.
or I'll ask EMS. And let them know and try.
Next time you're skating at the arena, ask him.
Did you want me to remove the roof over the rink out of there? Do you want me to take that out of the budget?
I would think so.
But Danica was thinking she could get 90% funding, right? Potentially.
Potentially.
So can we commit to 10%? I feel like if we can get 90% funding, it's worthwhile to spend 10%.
What if she only gets 50%?
Then we would have to, but like, we can name a number, can we not? That if we don't get this percentage, we walk away? Or I don't know how grants work. Are we allowed to do that? Like, sorry, you didn't give us enough? No, thank you.
You can withdraw an
You
application.
can? Okay.
Sure.
I agree with you that if we have a phenomenal facility just moments away, but also we have a pretty great facility within Armour that we've already invested a lot in. So if we only have to pay 10% to make it that much greater, why wouldn't we? And it might even reduce our dilling costs, right? If it is not out there shoveling it twice a day.
Yeah,
It's a tough one, but that almost, we get 90, would be crazy not to, really.
And she's already applied for the grants, correct?
I don't know what all, I
Okay.
don't think she's applied for that one yet,
Okay.
so. I know she's applied for Jumpstart and the J's one and some Canada Works ones for the student.
Are we
students.
doing baseball then this year?
She's only doing her own baseball program. It's not part of the traveling rec program.
Oh, okay, okay.
If she hasn't applied for her grant, I don't think she would get the grant this year, would she? It'd be for next year, wouldn't it?
I'm not familiar with the grant that she's going after, but if it's similar to the ones that I'm used to going after, it could be 6 to 9 months before you get a decision. Again, I don't know. I shouldn't say anything based.
Yeah, I don't know anything about.
And 6 to 9 months from now, then you gotta get the contract and get it all in. I think it'd be hard push to get it done. To be quite honest.
can we show it in the budget, Allison, as like the 500,000, but just show our portion as 50,000? And that's it, like if we don't get the $450,000 grant, it doesn't happen.
I can change it to 50 without the offset of the grant.
Yeah, you'd have to just take it on both
Yeah.
sides, right?
Yeah.
Does that make sense? I mean, it would be hard to turn down. That's just to your point.
Yeah.
We got 90% of it. I guess the other thing is, what does it do to Bob Miller's place when there's a roof? Like, what does that look like from his house?
He's a beautiful backyard.
It's gonna be quite.
It'd probably save a lot of pucks going.
Maybe
to the
that's true.
screen and
Yeah,
you'd have something to support the screen with.
Yeah.
Could be, well.
Yeah, we'd almost need to see what the design of the thing would look like too.
But it's Bob's garage is here, his house. You would literally have to be sitting on his front porch to see it. And I mean, he does sit on his front porch, but his whole living room and back and everything, you couldn't see it at all.
Next time I have a coffee with him, I'll ask him.
I've had many a teas in that house and you would have to be on the front porch.
Yeah, it's not like his front windows facing.
None of his windows face that,
No.
the garage does.
No, I don't think, yeah, I don't, unless he was outside, it wouldn't do anything.
And he would probably, yeah, he's got a lot of pucks right now, so it would probably reduce the.
Yeah,
But we're doing the netting for that anyway already.
Yeah, we're doing the netting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the netting wasn't part of any of the
Have
grants.
grants, so
Yeah.
that's just an out and out cost. I personally think we've got enough on our plate with the bridge and the fire and who knows what's going on with the library, that I would like to see that roof put off for a year and not even.
I think that's very fair and reasonable.
Yeah, I think so. It's perception sometimes, right? It looks like you're trying to do too much.
A lot of the conversations that Allison, that I revisited with Allison that I've had with Danica revolve around the idea that there has been significant investment that's gone into the KCC and the team is doing amazing work.
Yeah.
But I think there needs to be a focus just in terms of accountability to ratepayers and accountability to those investments that were made to really focus on sharing the good news stories of the results that are coming out of that. I've heard out in the community that there's a handful of people that have questioned it, some very outspoken. And I think at the end of the day, there's a lot of good news stories coming out of that facility. So one of the things that I've spoken about is what can we be tracking and how can we and how can we be bringing that message forward, and giving it a year or two to further justify increases probably isn't a harmful thing. But you know, when we've had a couple of really good investment years and money's going into that facility, I mean, I'd probably be in the same boat saying, well, let's not stop here. Let's keep the ball rolling.
Yeah, I don't wanna, they're doing an amazing job down there and the money that we've invested, they're really working at making sure that the usage is up and it's a good place for the whole community to use. So I'm very aware of how hard they're working for that. So that doesn't really play into why I think we should just sort of take a year and deal with the things that we have to do right now.
Yeah. I'd be fine with removing it for this year. You guys are good with that?
I can do that.
Can I circle back? Sorry. Can we leave it in as 50,000? I know that they spoke a lot about being able to really utilize it for a day camp, like use that space. They can't be out in the sun, but they certainly could be eating lunch out there. And there was talk of doing a farmer's market and using that space if it was covered. It would be much more practical for a farmer's market. So I think it would be 500,000. No, it's not reasonable. 50,000, absolutely.
and the 50,000 will be in contingent that you
Absolutely.
got your,
That you got your
that you got
90%
your.
grant.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm okay with that because it's not gonna happen without the grant. And
exactly.
you got another year on it, so.
Yeah.
I can live with that too, if that's what we're doing.
I'll
As
fix
long
that.
as it's clear
Yeah,
that that's what we're doing. I don't want to start announcing that we're putting a roof on.
yeah.
No,
And when it's done, we can say paid for with grant money.
Yeah.
They usually make you do that.
Yeah.
You gotta sign it to death.
And you got to pay for the sign.
That's right. Other questions for Allison? Anything else you want to direct us to, Allison, that we should be aware of or?
There wasn't really much change with a lot of stuff besides the capital. The industrial park, capital was still in there for the development of the Highway 520. The producer actually called me about that. Yes, he's gonna talk to you.
Yeah.
Asking if I knew about what he's supposed to do with that development. And that was all coming out of capital reserves as well, and a loan, I believe.
The loan?
Is council familiar with that? Do you want to 2 minutes or less recap on
Should
that?
probably have the recap.
Sure. So we currently have a pretty substantial grant sitting from the Northern Ontario Heritage Fund Corporation. And that's not for development that Dave is doing. That's to pay for a couple of things. natural gas extensions to go from where they currently exist at 500 Ontario Street or Loft House to Pickle and Jack Lake Road, as well as a couple of line reinforcements that exist on Ontario Street in between the bridge and Loft House, as well as out Highway 520, where essentially the natural gas pipeline goes from one diameter to a smaller diameter back to a wide diameter. So those line reinforcements would replace those sections to make sure that you could push the pressure and the volume of the gas that you may need. So a few years back, we had written those grants. We had gotten 50% funding to perform those. Part of our agreements with Loft House and with the former owners of Highway 520 was to ensure that natural gas is there. What we should do based on our contractual obligations is make sure that we're extending it up to the corner of Berrydale Road, extending the natural gas up there. The main challenge is that without having multiple operators along that line that want to connect to natural gas, the cost recovery formula for a customer connecting would be such that, Loft House would be holding that bill in the entirety. So the idea of getting the grant from the province and having some dollars is to extend it out to that point. Looking at our zoning, the commercial corridor runs all the way up Berrydale. So having it to that main connection point, I think is of strategic value for future development. So
Which point are you talking about on Berrydale then?
the corner of Berrydale and Pickle and Jack and Oak, the crossroads there. So yeah, getting the natural gas to that point was essentially what we're doing. We're still waiting to hear back from Enbridge on what they proposed to do. Back in the fall. They got back to us and said, okay, what did you say you had money for again? Let's go crunch some numbers, and then we're just waiting to hear back from them. So I could probably circle back around to that conversation, but that's what those dollars are for. To my knowledge, they weren't for the entrance. We had talked a little bit about, and I'd spoken with David about punching in that road a little bit further for development. Interestingly, we had one developer meeting a few weeks back, and I had another call today of some potential interest in a lot based on the listing that Sarah put up on the Explore Magman website. So the word is getting out there and there is some interest, and we should be looking at how we provide access to that, but that's not something that's been addressed at this point. I think Keith got to a certain point and hit rocks. So yeah, he had stopped, but otherwise that budget figure is for the natural gas extension and to service our portion, the applicant portion of the grant.
So where are we with our grant then? Are we?
The grant we have until the end of 2025 unless we ask for an extension. And if we have more information from Enbridge, then we hopefully would be able to use that to necessitate the extension.
So we need to leave it in there in case we can move forward, right?
Yeah, so I've left, that's been my plan. Yeah.
Is there natural gas where the fire hall's going on that side of the highway?
I can find that out. I don't believe that there is, because the pipeline goes up this side and the town border stations are, they run in along Chetwynd into Yonge Street.
I wasn't sure if they came up.
We have
or something.
a cap at the end of Ferguson.
Do they? Because I know it goes through at the corner of 520 there, just by the Amsdale Airport, but I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah,
Again, I don't know what the infrastructure is there, but I
don't think there's gas over there. Yeah, I don't think so.
What's happening with the property that we were selling on the 520? Is it just still for sale? There's not been interest yet?
No, that was the one I was just speaking to. We've had one, we have had one showing in the last 2 or 3 weeks and another call this morning.
One tour.
But that's not directly related to the natural gas at all.
No, the natural gas is there.
It's
Yes, yeah, so those two things are completely separate, okay. And that's the requirement, is that they're doing something for business for that sale, or it's open for sale for anything?
No, so the idea is that those are employment lands, right? So we want to create jobs on that property. Both people that I've talked to right out of the gate, based on the price of it, expressed interest. We'll just take the whole thing. I'm like, we're going to be a little bit more protective than that. Because the last thing we want is you to develop a 15,000 square foot building, lock that whole property up, and we have 5 jobs versus potentially 50 if there's 10 businesses that go there.
Did we discuss the possibility of using it for housing for a subdivision?
I'm adamant that we're using that for employment.
So just employing people to build the houses is not sufficient?
We need.
You want long-term-
people with jobs, work.
There's just without getting into specifics of the who and the what and the where and the why. we will want to be careful for compatibility reasons on the amount of employment that we attract to that area. And we've had conversations recently that suggest that that significant manufacturing jobs being created there would be incompatible with things as it sits right now. And to address your point, the main barrier for that is housing. One of the things that I noodled with John a little bit, and I mean, it was there are other properties that have that interest has been expressed in by the township. And my suggestion being is that if there's portions of that, without getting into too many specifics right now, because we haven't picked a direction, is that could there be considerations to put additional units in there? And certainly there's been openly discussed some residential discussed for the property over at or proposed anyways. Proposed, suggested, alluded to. So I think that housing is at the forefront of a lot of what we're looking at right now, and would certainly impede, like if we had somebody that wanted to bring in, that wanted to buy that property, put 100 jobs in there, it would put our community at risk.
And I think it's a happy coincidence that what we build over here will create jobs. If there's a medical building, there will be people employed in that building, right? So perhaps we let this go to housing and that goes.
The main point of bringing that online as an industrial park, and even the Highway 11 one, was through our business retention and expansion studies done through the old Economic Development Committee before we went regional. And the notion there was that before Loft House had built their last 50,000 square foot expansion, they have no place else to go. They're landlocked there. And at the time, there was there was some other opportunities that were being explored to bring significant other increases. And again, I'm dancing around a couple of specifics just based on a few things, but the point being is that with the limited availability that exists locally, that is of strategic interest down the road. I mean, there's a lot of commercial corridor that's planned up Berrydale Road, which I think is terrific, but those are ones that we own. And the reason why municipalities get into the land ownership game for strategic economic purposes is because they can control the pricing. Like once the notion gets out that there's development ready lands for $7,000 an acre, that's a pretty big deal and that's what I call a tipping point kind of, well, I guess a tipping point for attracting development is saying, hey, well, that same land privately owned might go for that 20,000 acres may go for $200,000, $300,000, $400,000. That's $7,000 an acre. That's a steal, and that's why we protect it with clawback clauses and all that type of stuff. But to Rod's point, that doesn't come. Those opportunities don't come very often, and it will be up to council to determine is housing more important or is creating those
Back
jobs.
to the housing, one thing we're gonna be up against at our the most recent housing task force meeting we had, the developer that was involved in all of our meetings and whatnot basically said, you are not going to see developers build housing right now. As much as it needs to be done, the climate's not there, the interest rate isn't right. Now, the interest rates come down a bit since that last meeting, but there's just too many uncertainties. There's the cost of the construction alone he said, everybody's gonna do a sit and wait game.
That was before tariffs.
Yeah.
So I don't think us, trying to push it along is really the answer right now. We almost have to wait for the environment.
In fairness, he did say that now is the time to plan.
It is, yes, he did, yeah.
But it's, there's been a lot of interesting developments in the economy since that chat. And I do believe that there is a place for planning for housing development. And beyond that, which is proposed for the 40 acres out of Peggs Mountain, there's still additional lands in there. And I think one of the roads was punched in such that further development could happen inward towards the property. So we may be in a position where council may consider designating some of that as additional residential.
But with the tariffs, we might find that people are looking to build manufacturing places within Ontario. So
Quite possible.
that could be
New opportunity.
a very likely. The person that you had speak at the Cal a couple of years ago spoke to a lot more things being manufactured in North America over the next 10 years. So
If you're interested,
tariffs.
at the EDCO conference, Brock gave a follow-up conversation based on what's going on, and I recorded it.
Oh, fantastic. Okay.
If you'd like to hear it.
So maybe I always just think houses, but yeah, maybe.
Well, we put specific zoning on the piece at 520 to allow for
housing
No, commercial. Industrial, out here on.
on the 520, sorry, okay. Sorry.
Just for, and that's where I'm stuck on my head is what we started with in my mind. There's still lots of property that MTO, we've looked at that map not long ago and we've moved ahead a little bit, but there's substantial,
Yeah.
there's blocks of land that you could put in a subdivision on fairly easily. Just available, there's potential for us moving forward as John had started us along. I'm Adam, we should be buying up everything MTO has got, because it's not gonna cost us anything in the long run. It's actually making it happen for somebody that doesn't know what's there. People drive by it all the time and don't realize if the township put it up for sale, it'd be gone in a flash, right? We've done the legwork, people can't be bothered doing.
Yeah, well, we've also laid the groundwork for that to happen all throughout the region. I've been chatting with different municipalities in my capacities with ACE and saying, if you're not looking at this, I do have a file. There are other properties that we have expressions of interest in on. And the thing is, it takes a couple of years to push that through the system. So the process has been started on a couple other ones. And I mean, I don't disagree where the capacity exists. That's good land on good corridors.
It's not that great.
It's tremendous.
A lot of them are on either side of my house.
They're gonna look like Bayfield Street.
Yeah.
I did have one other little note here, Allison. You probably would know, but the OPP board,
Yeah, I added that in.
did you?
Yeah.
Okay, I missed it then.
Yeah, it's under policing.
Okay.
Other pressure you might get, I actually forgot to mention to you, there's a potential that the planning board is gonna be asking for a little bit of money. Cause they do need to hire somebody to help out Linda. So we've had the discussion and Perry's actually looking at trying to get an intern in.
So I do,
And if they do, I think we have 4,000.
yeah, I was gonna
a
say,
year,
4,000 that I budget a year.
which we put in every year. I'm not sure if it'll be enough, but
Yeah,
we'll see where,
I'm pretty sure.
we'll see what our partners come up with. But
Yeah, I have 4,000.
that should be fine.
Yeah. And we did increase legal just because we expected with a few of the things
You were
going
reading the
on
news?
this year that we expect maybe a little bit higher legal costs with some of the planning applications that are
Yeah,
in the forefront.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Ally?
In the KC's, sorry, on 239, the KCC budget, it says cost. Am I reading this wrong, or is that revenue expense? Cost, wouldn't that be? Isn't,
In 239?
yep. Is the cost not? Or we make? It shows it in the red, but it like, if the Easter event, the revenue was 1,000, the expense was
Yeah,
7. It shouldn't be cost, it should be positive, right? That's all a positive number?
Yeah, that's not cost either. Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
that's just the wrong heading.
What is that called? So that's like profit.
Yeah.
Profit. Okay.
Oh, let's see what you mean.
Like I was like, if we're losing this much money on every single event, we have to rethink this. This is all profit.
It's interesting how the services that we're providing for other municipalities, how much that's brought our budget down.
Yeah,
Yeah, so bylaw for that department pretty much pays for itself.
And
With,
building too has come down a lot too, like.
well, buildings come down because now it's something the That's why buildings come down.
Gotcha.
And we started sharing, Doug in the middle of
That's-
last year.
Doug needs more. Yeah, well, that's good. Anything else for Allison? Great work, Allison.
Thank you.
You can take a nap.
yeah, you're on, it's done, your budget's on.
Yeah, so I'll make those changes and then do I give that to you just at the next meeting or do I give that to you before the next meeting?
Bring back to the two bylaws next meeting, we pass it, and then your budget's approved.
Okay.
Want to do lap 2 with the audit just for kicks or?
I do, thank you.
You had a very serious face. I was like, no.
They're still emailing me and asking me for stuff.
I can probably just leave this here and you can fill it in properly.
Yeah, I can add your new pages.
Excellent. Okay, next we have under applications of staff report. So this is from consent BO 13-24 transfer of surplus lands, and we have a staff report from Charlene. So Char, do you want to give us the highlights on this one?
All right, so if you scroll to page 18 of your agenda package, there's a aerial image from CGIS. And right in the middle of that image, you can see like a gravel road that kind of loops up and goes back down. So way back when, Pickerel and Jack Lake Road, that was the road. And then Pickerel and Jack has now moved to the north to reconfigure for a bridge replacement. And when we did that, that area landlocked those other parcels to the south. That gravel portion is still being maintained by the township. So the lot to the north of Pickerel and Jack, that used to be all one big lot, but then we ran Pickerel and Jack through the south end of the lot and separated it. So the person's going through a severance application right now. Where Pickerel and Jack travels through that lot is part 3 of the new survey. The property owner has to transfer that to the township anyways as a road deviation. But the land to the south where that gravel road little pieces,
The little squiggly piece there.
she wants to transfer all of that into the name of the township just for legal costs. So she's not selling it. It's all, we're already using it. We're already maintaining it.
This would officially make it ours.
It would make it yours. And I did confirm with the road supervisor that we are still maintaining that little area.
May I ask why we're maintaining it?
Because when we reconfigured the road, we landlocked those parcels to the south. So we're still maintaining it so that those people,
Because they have driveways.
Oh, the driveway goes out into that space. Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
so you can see, that was on page 18 for the aerial imagery so that you can see. The following page, page 19 at the bottom, you'll see a blown up section of that southern part of that lot. So part 3 has to be transferred to us as a road deviation. Parts 4, 5, and 6 is the gravel road and all those little pieces at the bottom. Because she can't sell that, she can't develop it. We've got a gravel road being in there, the lot would be undersized, no one could develop it. If you look at page 20, in 1999, a surveyor under a different survey pointed that out. Saying that this was Mr. Pink's property and that parts 4 is our road. Parts 2 is the new road. If you're on page 21. So they want, if you look at the colored portions on the page 21, they want to transfer parts 3, 4, and 5 on that old survey to us just at the legal cost.
So we cover the legal costs and the property.
Yeah. We're already maintaining it, right?
Does that road have a name or is it just like a driveway that we
And it's a gravel access that we maintain.
Sign on it? Oh,
we should name it?
Is there only one driveway on it? Because there was one house.
I think there's 2.
I think there's 2.
Yeah, there's 2, yeah.
There's 2 houses up
I
there.
can see 2, but it looks like the one has a driveway going down.
Yeah. And that road that goes up.
Yeah, there's 2 driveways that go off that little looped area in that lot. One goes down to the southwest and the other's
Is this just across from the like apartment buildings?
96 Pickerel and Jack.
No,
Your
across
building?
where Don Dorsey used to live.
It's just before a bridge, or right before a bridge.
Across the road from the Stollards' place.
Oh, okay.
It's Don Dorst's.
Oh, right, the wedding one there.
Sure, which lot is that lot that Impact created?
No, it's before this.
Remember a few years ago, Impact created a lot that had never been assessed before?
Yeah, I think that was more towards Linda's, was it not?
No, it was right across from. Cause it was part of that original 100 acres that Phyllis Leggett severed.
This
And
is
it was
Pink's.
across the road. Oh, this is Pink's.
Yeah, this is pink.
Oh, okay.
It was right at the top of the hill where that house with that pool inside it.
So there's no harm in us
No,
taking,
it's-
we're
it's-
maintaining it anyway, yeah.
And it's removing the property owner's, name off the liability of us maintaining that area.
There's no room for a lot at the end of that gravel road.
Actually, it's the hill.
Yeah, it drops off pretty
Yeah.
quick.
Yeah, it's a rock cut is what it is. But
Because what
the
is,
road used to go down, the road used to go down and come out at the railway tracks, used to come out and do a little hook.
Oh, did it? Oh.
it's like Thompson's Rapids is right beside it, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
It is.
okay.
No, it went up over the hill and went down and then made a really hard left and then you were straight onto the tracks.
Were my driving days, obviously.
You must have went the other way in the town.
Okay,
So
we have a resolution for that one, right?
to accept the transfer of the land and we were quoted 4,000 from the survey or from the lawyer.
Okay, staff report from the municipal clerk dated March 25th, 2025 regarding the transfer of lands under consent application BO 13-24 be received and that council agree to accept ownership of parts 4, 5, and 6 from registered plan 42R-22702. Furthermore, the council agrees to pay for the legal costs estimated at $4,000 for the title transfer.
Sure.
Got Jerry, and I saw Dorothy's hand go up. Any more questions for sure? All those in favor? We have a new road,
What are you naming it?
John Terrio Boulevard.
Oh, I was like, why is that name familiar?
Have a look, cause you might be able to build at the top, I mean, you'd have a view of the railway tracks.
I went in there, the lady's goat was on the road. Anyway, I went up in there and I had to do like a 15-point turn to get out of her driveway.
I haven't been up there since the road changed, but just thinking of the lay of the land, I mean, if a person wanted to look over top of.
Well, the rapids would be closer, but you like before the tracks or the rapids, you could have
You wouldn't-
potentially a good
you
view.
wouldn't See it, though. I don't think you'd see the rapids, you'd be looking down at the parking lot more. But
Isn't it past
It's just a thought, I'll go up there.
You'd feel the train every time.
I think it'd be past the parking.
But it's-
You'll feel the train every.
Oh, yeah.
time it goes
This
by.
property that she was showing,
No, that's up on top of the hill.
the parking lot's on top of the hill?
No,
That's what I mean. Like, I think the parking lot's like here and this lot would be over here, would it not?
It's right beside it.
just do a zip line from there to Richard Thomas Memorial Park.
Oh.
Tourism.
Yeah, I like it.
Raise $50,000, get a roof and Armour or in,
Maybe even a duck.
or a goat pen.
Okay. That one's passed. All right, now we're on to bylaws. We have authorization for the debenture for the purchase of the fire truck. This goes back to our delays in getting our 2023 finances, right?
Yes.
So we're playing catch up. Council of Township of Armour approved bylaw 16-2025 being a bylaw to authorize the borrowing upon amortizing debentures in the principal amount of $322,050 towards the cost of purchase of a new fire truck, and that we authorize the mayor and clerk to sign this bylaw and affix the seal of the corporation there too.
Sure.
Rod. Seconder Dorothy.
So glad you started by saying this is the one from 2023, because I was like, we just did this.
On a fire
That
truck.
one, yeah. This makes more.
This was,
Yeah, so it was in last year's budget. We already paid Ryerson for the fire truck because it was part of last year's budget. But because the audit took so long to get our financials, we needed our 2023 financials to get the loan.
Oh, okay.
And because we didn't get the financials until December, that's why our loan is just coming now.
Perfect.
and you had like 2 hours to spare when you hit submit on the application.
Yeah.
Okay, do we have a mover and a second or any other questions for Allison? All those in favor? And that's carried. Next up, we have an update to our procedures bylaw. And mostly based on the video recording, I believe. The Township of Armour approves bylaw 17-2025 being a bylaw to govern and regulate the proceedings of council and committees, and that we authorize the mayor and clerk to sign this bylaw and affix the seal of the corporation there too. Wendy. Seconder,
Sure.
Chair. So this was mostly to do, Shar, with the video recording
Yes, you had the draft one from last.
from last
meeting.
meeting.
I think the only other thing was the land acknowledgement was added.
Oh, yeah, added that in officially. Yeah.
Can I just ask, I missed, so I was on the meeting, you guys were discussing doing the video. How come what was the positive to, well, I understand what the positive is. I just, give me the cold notes of how the conversation went.
Yeah, I think it came up after our little debacle on January 14th. And I think it was kind of looking back at some of the things that were said in that meeting
Okay.
and thinking that, it's not appropriate and it's probably not the kind of message we want to send. And then interestingly, the same week, another municipality close by passed a bylaw that was completely the opposite, where they banned recordings. And I just thought that was kind of strange, where most municipalities are going to more open and accessible. And the truth is, I was looking for something on Huntsville's site from last July, and I was actually able to find the exact meeting and the actual point in the recording that I needed to see. So I thought, well, that's handy.
I think we discussed just full transparency.
Full
It's
trade.
recorded, it's absolutely transparent what takes place.
And I don't disagree. I was just curious. It was just because
Yeah, I forgot you weren't there for that meeting.
it certainly defines the conversation, right? And I mean, we all remember what we talked about, how it was said maybe is irrelevant or whatever, but I mean, there's no denying. I don't know, and honestly, I don't know what was the issue if we do or we don't. I was just curious as
Yeah.
to what.
And sometimes you don't remember what you said. Like you go back and said, I'd like to try to recall exactly how I said that or what.
In conversations with Huntsville, when we were investigating solutions for recording or live streaming, their staff came back and it had illustrated that it was a great benefit for staff as well, because at times when you're going back and reviewing things and trying to get a sense of where council went with a certain decision, they found themselves going back to it fairly regularly as well. And that was certainly, I think, considered when putting everything together and moving it forward.
Compliment the staff when you take notes, because
Yeah.
to get all the little details of you get the like positive, the negative, you get the feel of the conversation, but it's like, my God, like you get time to think.
I pretty much know which way your direction is, the direction of the conversation. So
She's actually willing us to say, sir.
Well, that's
So she
so.
doesn't-
got the minutes.
So what they did, what I learned before Christmas was a lot of their notes are pre-done. They're just filling in the
They
blank.
just added it afterwards. They gave their secrets away.
Predictable.
Okay, so we have an updated procedures bylaw and we have a mover and a seconder. All those in favor? That's carried. This one came as a result of our last closed meeting, I guess. Council Township of Armour approved bylaw 18-2025 being a bylaw to execute an agreement with Hugo MB Contracting, Inc. for the replacement of the North Pickerel Lake Road Bridge, and that we authorize the mayor and clerk to sign this bylaw and affix the seal of the corporation there too.
Sure. Sure.
Rod and then Jerry. We all know how this came about.
Where is this company from again? Are they local?
No.
Milton? Oh.
They've done work for us before.
Did it say that right on there, Wendy, when I just asked it?
Mhm.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, any other questions on this one? All those in favor? And that's carried. And this next one is also related to this, to the bridge replacement. Council Township of Armour approved bylaw 19-2025 being a bylaw to approve a long-term loan application to OILC to finance the replacement of the North Pickerel Lake Road Bridge. we authorize the mayor and clerk to sign this bylaw and affix the seal of the corporation there too. Dorothy,
I feel like we probably should have done the loan before the approving, but.
we had to award it first,
Okay.
seconder. Any questions on the loan? It's item 8. All those in favor? And that's carried.
Can I ask about the signage for the actual construction? I don't think we actually saw the tender document, and I know there's probably a signage component. But I'd like to make sure that we get signs up notifying the local residents of that, when that road is gonna be closed for traffic and when a detour is gonna be in place. The sooner we can get the public notice, the better. And I don't know whether we send anything or anybody sends anything direct to the property owners right there, like.
I think we
Good idea.
got Dave put a sign up right around the bridge in the corner there somewhere.
Yeah,
I think that would be a good idea.
yeah.
Would that be us or Tulloch that does that?
Well, it depends what's in the contract.
So it should be
There
the
is,
tender?
the contractors will be obligated to put some signage up, but sometimes it's not enough. Sometimes the township has to go above and beyond that to make sure that the public has got good notification.
But we would get the dates from Tulloch or the contractor?
Yeah, well, usually we deal with the Tulloch and then they will deal with the contractor,
Okay, good.
so. But yeah, I think we should try and make sure we get that.
Wouldn't hurt to remind them.
Yeah.
Once the snow melts, we'll get some signs up.
Is it worth sending out a mailed notice to?
I don't know whether we've done it in the past or not.
I think we should, if there's seasonal residents. I can't imagine driving up 11 o'clock at night being like, oh, just to go to the cottage. Oh,
Well, there's people's driveways that are gonna be directly affected.
And there is a tourist camp there too. So
Mhm.
they're still going. It's sort of
Yeah, the one that's in Cottage Court,
close to you.
It goes, yeah.
yeah, they still have it.
That would affect them.
What do you think the buffer should be?
The contract will be very specific about where the contractor has to put signs up and the detour signs, that'll be written right into.
Yeah, and if we did a circulation though,
If we did a circulation,
120 meters?
I don't know, let me come in and chat with you about that one day.
All right. Indeed, too busy, sure.
When you can do a road trip, eh?
I was like, yeah, just.
Yeah.
Give her all her neighbors.
Okay. Next up, we have vote by mail. We're looking ahead to the next election already. Council of Township of Armour approved bylaw 20-2025 being a bylaw to authorize the vote by mail method for the 2026 municipal elections, and we authorize the mayor and clerk to sign this bylaw and affix the seal of corporation there too.
Sure.
All right. Seconder.
Yeah.
Wendy.
Is that what you guessed?
No, it was supposed to be.
I was gonna do it, but I was like, well, it's my first election. I probably shouldn't have a say.
Were there many municipalities that did the internet voting last time? Because
It's very expensive. We looked into it.
and
Yeah, for the cost.
they had hiccups in a couple places.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because everybody votes at the same time and then.
Yeah, it brings the system to its knees.
I mean, that's every time that we have a municipal election vote by mail, Canada Post goes on strike. So then that's gonna impact voter turnout because then they've got to either come to the office and drop it off or.
Got great news for you. Their contract is up in May. Their extension will be well resolved before 2026. And then they have a 4-year. Yeah.
But yeah, so.
Yeah.
There was some, we had a clerk's meeting last couple weeks ago and some of the municipalities are looking at getting tabulators. So we don't get enough to,
I looked into them, they're expensive for the
Yeah.
number of votes.
and they want you, if you're gonna get the tabulators, get 2 in case one.
Yeah.
Craps out and then you've got to fire up the other one.
Yeah.
So,
I have heard of a lot of some municipalities that do more than one option. You can register for a mail ballot, or you could do
Or do the internet thing.
internet, or some of them did phone as well. The one election a couple of times ago, Huntsville had 3 options of how to vote.
Mhm.
I can't imagine trying to.
Wasn't it maybe the one that did the electronic? They did electronic and vote by mail. And something happened that both, like they got two ballots, like they, data fix was supposed to do the ballots, but then the electronic people did the ballots as well or something.
That would be my biggest nightmare, though, that people are.
Double voting.
Yeah, I think it was like that one, I don't, yeah, them are strong, yeah, something happened with something there.
And we've had a couple people show up just before 8 o'clock and, you know, register to vote and drop the ballot in the box here. So technically that's, you know, traditional ballot.
Yeah.
Because we wait till 8 o'clock and then we go and scan and all that, right? So, I mean, we still have that option, even though it's vote by mail.
So we did vote by mail. Somebody put the mailbox in front of the post office on fire. We didn't know how many going.
Is that right?
Oh, geez.
Yeah. Lots of fun.
So, for the most part, we've ran the vote by mail. It's a good system. I enjoy doing it. We didn't have an election last time, but we'll see what happens this year.
It'll be the same this year,
Saying,
quick and easy.
maybe.
Maybe.
Never know.
Okay, we have a mover and a seconder. All those in favor? That's carried. Eight oh eight, we're under reports. Do we need a break considering we had a public meeting?
Yep.
Wait,
We should be able to whiz through most of it pretty quick, the rest of it.
the rest of it. So let's break till 8:20 and then we can go through reports and correspondence.
That's good to me.
Those in Zoom line will be breaking till 8:20. Okay, we're back online. Next up, we're into reports. First is the Health Council report from March 6th. So I've actually already reported on this, but the minutes are here. The only thing I'll point out is the name change to Muskoka at Area Ontario Health Team has started. I've just seen it in some of the blurbs that are coming out. The Muskoka Almegwin Ontario Health Team is actually in action.
And they've changed all their emails.
They're gonna have to start changing their emails and logos and
I was in last week and a doctor who spoke very, very highly of you, somebody gave me their email and he said, wait, it's different now because you've changed the name.
Well done.
number 11 is the regional fire meeting from last week, 13th of March. So the minutes that are in there are from the November meeting. Nothing too big to report. I did ask them at the end of the meeting about their comments on the BES system since we're dealing with this. So Joe gave a bit of an update and Gary Curtis had a few comments based on what they'd seen in the States, but nothing made it. And they're just waiting for standards to come out and they'll get trained on it. That's kind of their take on it at this point,
Standards on BES,
on BES and how to fight those fires and.
so they'll be
It's
trained regardless.
well, it's such a new area that nobody really has the standards yet.
Okay.
So they're kind of learning about this as we are. They're building I hate to call it a burn unit because it doesn't sound, fire unit in Perry. They should have it done by the end of May. That's the one we paid for last year. And they may actually expand it because they can get some, they've got an old building there that I've never been over there, but they've got an old, it might have been their old municipal office. Been using for training, but it's just not, it's not safe anymore. So they're gonna replace it with another similar unit to the burn unit, just so they have another place to practice. So at least the fire halls in the area will have a good place to go in terms of some of the training. That's all good. That's it for that. Next up is the air reading. Oh, now Megan Recycling Initiative. I'm not sure. Oh, it was Danica who would have been there from here. There's a set of minutes from that meeting.
Hazmat days.
Hazmat days are May 24th and August 23rd. Next up is Shar Historical Society on March 17th.
They had their AGM elected. This year was different because they had to pass a new constitution. So they had to elect 5 directors. Or, yeah, and once those directors were elected, then they appointed the officers. So with me being a municipal rep, I wasn't allowed to be a director, but they appointed me as being the secretary / deputy treasurer. And the next meeting, they bumped it up a week because the third Monday's Easter, so the next one's April 14th.
Okay.
And then, there's another set of minutes at the end. This Facilities and Function Committee was established. And they met for the first time. And there was a resolution that was passed in council. So I think they want to look at having an engineer assess some of the buildings that are on the property to determine what they can do with them.
Yeah, okay.
They've set a budget for the estimate for it.
They're wanting to install heat in the new building?
Is there a quote for that heat? I don't remember seeing that.
I don't think they've got that
I
far.
haven't got a quote yet.
Why would they need heat if they're just storing stuff in there? I don't get that.
Because the structure itself is one that's going to have artifacts in it that are going to be put on display. So
But we determined that they're not gonna be put on display in the storage unit, correct? Because we didn't have. They are now?
I believe so. That's what the intent was. So there's a whole whack of artifacts that are in the garage that were discussed with John to move over there and set up a display. Like they've got that great big cabinet from the Knight Brothers that they wanted to set up a display. So it was like a general store. And then there's been a bunch of donations that are on that they can't accept right now because they don't have the room for it. So there's a whole whack of CN rail stuff that's to come in. And I believe there's a area where they want to put the trappers.
Yeah, there was a bunch of raw spice stuff there.
Yeah, the drawings were all given to council a long time ago.
Yeah.
On the concept, that John deviated from some of that.
But
Made a bit of a mess of it.
we discussed not doing the second level and I believe I remember this, that we discussed that it was not going to be used for anything outside of storage because it was going to cost us another $125,000 to build the stairs upstairs to make it.
So here,
Oh, the upstairs isn't happening.
Upstairs not gonna happen.
There's talk, okay, sorry.
so the original plan that was postured to the province in the funding applications was that that space was to be used for exhibits. And if you look at the design and you go into the building, like there's actually booths where
Yeah.
you can have exhibits that are all set up. And the request for the money that was put in was such that it would enhance the entire property, that people would be able to go through and you know, it would be part of the Heritage Center experience. The way it was carried out was not consistent with that. And in speaking with Doug, like there would have needed to be a number of other reports that were done to have the public in there. And I think the idea is that we aren't going to be able to make good on the reporting that we will have to provide to the province if they can't put people in there. And I've gone back to bring that back up to John, saying if you look at the, you know, we were basically judging the success of that project on the amount of, you know, the growth of visitors, the amount of other events that could be held in either property based on moving some of the space that was in there. So there were some reportables that I had drafted into that funding application. I can't remember the specifics of them right now. That was a little while ago, but what we said was going to happen when we asked for the money, I don't think is what has been carried out.
Are we required, and we will do whatever we have to do, I think, but are we required to make it a 12-month exhibit or can we make
No,
it?
The idea was to make it a summer operating season type of thing for the displays, and that things would be secured in the other months. Like adding heat to it is something that I don't think was introduced in the original application. I can understand from a historical society perspective why they might want to make sure that there's some climate control for some of that stuff. Don't know what that looks like from a technical end. But I do know that there was supposed to be elements to that building as it was designed that would enable public to go into it.
And we did as far as the washroom, right? We changed the design of the washroom.
The idea is we knew the public may walk sort of through the building and back out and visit and see the little cubicles. I don't know how our CBO feels about the construction based on
The
that.
CBO feels that it wasn't designed for public occupancy. It wasn't engineered for public occupancy. So now the question becomes, what do we gotta
What do
do
we have to do?
to make it occupiable?
And that's why I brought a lot of concerns to the council here. And I wanted everybody to go out and talk, because I could see it going down the wrong road.
I went out and looked at it, but I guess I wasn't relating what we applied for the grant.
The grant, yeah.
Being, I didn't realize there was a disconnect there. My only concern with the heat is the ongoing expense for the township. We're gonna have to pay for some heat for
I think
that.
there's issues too with moisture, was there not?
Moisture was
Rusting?
monitored until a lot of the snow come, and you can't put artifacts in there, it's 80%.
80% humidity, yeah.
You expressed concerns with rust already last year.
And the doors froze
They
up.
were, yeah, there was like
Doors froze
moisture.
up, and there's all kinds of stuff, like it's just. And it's council's fault, really, because we should have maybe got an engineer to look after things. Instead of relying on John, who is in here. I think we fell through the cracks there. We
Well, we
could have
were,
done things different.
we were also dealing with what we had budget wise.
I think, yeah.
Uh-huh.
And we were still doing things to it after we ran out of budget. We had already spent all the money and we were then
Yeah,
adding.
And we still have to wrap up our final claim for that, although we've exhausted, I think, what the funds that we had available, like we still have to report back on what the rest of the expenses and everything were. We can't do that. There's a few.
There'll be things that can be done. It's just be a little different.
so that's my only comment as far as the heat goes, is we need, what's the estimate gonna be for the added operating costs that if we're heating that building?
Old fashioned wood stove.
But especially if it was not constructed to be used 12 months a year, what does the insulation look like in it?
Go look.
Yeah.
Pretty sparse.
That's what I'm thinking, yeah, so to heat that.
How many heats you use as a human throw off when you're standing in there?
Yeah, that's concerning, yeah.
Great for pickleball.
Put an ice pad in there. We now have our indoor ice surface.
Now you're onto something.
Yeah. It's unfortunate, but it's our red elephant.
Okay, anything else, sure, that we should? Integrity Commissioner report, glad to see we didn't show up on that. 15, the library board meeting from March 19th, Rod.
There's a lot of conversation around the pay equity issue. Yev has been wanting a pay equity update for, I'm gonna guess 5 to 6 years, and it's been a verbal thing. When we went down the path that we can't be doing, it needs to be more than verbal, it needs to be written. And then we felt it was maybe it shouldn't be coming from Nieves, it should be coming from the library board. And along, we finally got a report from Berks Falls that the pay equity had been reviewed. The next one will be audited in 2026, but there hasn't been one audited, I believe it was since 2012. So we have a little bit of a conundrum coming up, I think, as we've had 2 arena managers come and go. Nieves' job description has changed in the since 2012. And rumor has it that we could be liable for back pay up to 10 years. When they do
Okay.
an audit.
Yeah,
So because Burkes Falls didn't include the library, it's gonna cost us, it potentially has to cost the three municipalities quite a bit as back pay.
You're saying that they were included in the initial Brooks Falls pay equity, but then not maintained?
Correct.
since
that's
2012?
correct. I remember that.
Yeah, well, even.
I knew it was Brooks Falls, it was headed in there, but,
Yeah, and Nevis have been asking, it's been 5 years and possibly 6, that she just wanted to be informed that we're up to speed, and they reviewed it. But it wasn't done by an outside firm, so that makes me to believe somebody reviewed it, and it'll be audited next year. So when they include Nieves' description, as long as nothing has changed, things are not a big deal, but I can't imagine things haven't changed since 2012.
Well, there are other positions there as well that they do all kinds of creating and I can't think of.
Has different jobs. and-
Yeah, absolutely. Like they ran a whole March break program. Every day, different, like, I'm not sure that happened historically, but I think that the job has changed.
Oh, it has. We've had 2 arena managers. You know damn well their job description has changed.
Our recreation,
Our hours have changed at the library.
Mhm.
Like,
And it's not only that, it's the office staff jobs there and the pay scales. It'll all come into view, so.
yeah, it was a drastic mistake. So we spent quite a bit of time discussing that. And then Burkes Falls gave us our new lease agreement. We discussed that for 45 minutes to an hour. We didn't sign it back. There was a lot of irregularities and inconsistencies that were being discussed. So it's by no means a legal document.
what was the rent increase?
Well, the first page says it's gonna be a 5-year or 3-year agreement, and they give dates, but the dates go to 4 years. And then they said there's gonna be a 5% increase, and if you do the math, it's a 30% increase. And then they refer on the back page about the increase will be every 5 years, but it's a 3-year agreement. It was, I couldn't believe that it came to our table. That would be something that I would have presumed would have been drafted by somebody. There's a draft. Let's look at it. But I mean, so then they gave Nieves the reason why the increase in the rent was because there hasn't been a rent increase in years. Nieves says it's been probably 5 or 6 years that Nieves it's been penciled in every time on the budget that she presents, 3% increase on the rent. And I remember seeing that in there. So the fact that they made the statement that hasn't been increased, we all deny, like, we know that statement's not right. And then their math, they said it was gonna be a 5% increase. And probably 4 or 5 people started doing numbers, and everybody was coming up with strange numbers, but we figured out their increase is 30%, not 5%.
in they said it was gonna be 12%.
Yeah.
Well, we got it in writing that it was gonna be 5. So they based it on 5%, so Nieves's budget is a 3% increase, and they did a 27% increase on top of what Nieves gave her, so it's a 30% increase.
And that was what they originally proposed. And then took it, like, then asked Nevis to go to other local libraries to see what their rent was.
Yeah.
And that's where they determined 12.
And we were less than everybody else.
Mhm.
Cause somebody else was less. But all their hydros, like all their services were included, so we pay our own bills. So the rent is within reason to be in the same as everybody else's. So they're justifiable, it's not justifiable. The neighboring library rents aren't justifiable for it. On paper, 5%, and then the next page shows 30%, like. I have a problem with that. So that pretty much took our meeting.
Well, and the increase, not just the rent, but the wages is potentially substantial if it's
Well,
not been
I
done.
don't know how that's gonna play out. I look at the worst case scenario, and it's not gonna be good. My way of thinking now, if we're concerned about a new build and we're concerned about where we're gonna get our money to build it, where are we gonna get our money to fund it? If Burke's Falls was adamant that the rent should be at fair market value, and it's taken a step to what it is at right now, we're gonna increase the space by how many square feet? The rent will be, the heat will be more, the hydro will be more, and I presume we'll be doing more staff hours. So we're gonna build a building that I am a skeptic that we can afford to do, and I'm a skeptic that anybody's thought of what the building's gonna cost us when we do have it. So the last little paragraph was my thoughts after the thoughts, but most of our meeting was the equity and the lease agreement. And nobody was happy with anything.
Davis, we have you there. Has there been any further follow-up on the lease agreement since the 19th meeting?
Good evening. No, there hasn't been. I haven't heard from Denis yet. I did send to him the amendments done to the rental agreement by the library board. But I haven't heard yet.
Yeah, so they'll meet next month.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Two of them.
Yeah.
The first
So-
was new.
The second one.
Yes, so it's unfortunate that after I provided the figures from other two union libraries, such as Sandridge and South River, where they showed the rent very comparable to our rent. So really, we are not paying less than anybody else that is in the same situation as we are. But that increase was just a bit out of reach. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what one of the board members requested is that the paragraph that was included in the original lease agreement should stay in the offer of the lease agreement, which has to do with the snow removal. So the lease agreement that came from the Village of Burkes Falls omitted that paragraph for some reason. I was told that that paragraph was not necessary. This is what the Village of Burkes Falls is presenting. But one of the board members, and I'm sure Rod can support my observation, is that he requested that that paragraph be put back.
And I think it needed to be put back because if it's an issue, we want it dealt with.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's been an issue and it hasn't been dealt with, so we felt it needed to be in writing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And in regards to the pay equity, yes, the Village of Burkes Falls started a pay equity review in 2016, at which point they made a committee, they built a committee, and they invited the library to participate. And we were included as per our policy and the agreement with the Village of Brooks Falls. And then they did another review in 2021, at which point the library was never present, and they did their own review without the library. And now there is one coming up because according to their addendum, it's every 5 years. So in 2026, they are going to have another pay equity review with a consultant. And Denis verbally has mentioned to me that the library will be included at that point. But if I look at their pay grid, our wages are way off to the pay grade that they have right now, which is the one passed as a bylaw in 2021. So yes, as Rod has mentioned very softly, yes, there's going to be a surprise in 2026 because it's 3 staff members whose job descriptions have changed considerably since 2021. And I'm just going to say it, we are underpaid. And this has to change if we want the quality of services that we have been providing to the 3 townships.
How many positions is it, Navis? Is there 3?
3.
3 staff total, yeah. On the rent side, I can't recall this. Does Perry charge rent to their library, or is it just part of their?
I never consulted Perry Library CEO, but I wanted to compare our library to other union libraries
Yeah, makes sense.
so that they could see how their budgets are more or less the same as ours, like everything is very equal. I mean,
Yeah.
for example, Huntsville Library doesn't pay any rent whatsoever.
That's what I thought.
Powassan, Powassan, they have their own building, but there's quite a few that don't pay rent at all. I think it's Calendar that doesn't pay rent at all either.
Okay.
So it's like $1, just as it's for the books. Yeah.
So at some point, they're gonna come back with an ask for, are they asking for a rent increase for this year, Davis? Like for 2025, I assume.
Oh, yes, and we haven't paid any rent as of today. I mean, we are really I don't know, we are just illegal tenants because we haven't paid any rent since January 1st.
Is that right?
See, I think we
Contract.
should be paying what we paid last year just to maintain.
Exactly. Otherwise, it's a big hit.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm sure
the agreement is still in place until we come up with a new one.
Yeah.
So the rent is what it is.
Yeah,
And Nieves had increased it by 3%.
every year.
Well, that's the budget we passed as well.
Yeah, that's what we.
3% increase.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. So yes, I don't know where that information, what kind of information they have that they said that we have not had a rent increase since, I don't know the date that was mentioned, but I think it said 2012. I have to say that that's an error on their part because we have had a rent increase every year at 3%.
Yeah, that was agreed upon. I remember.
Yeah, back
Within
in,
the council meeting, I believe we all agreed that would be an annual increase of, we assumed 3% would be a number that cost of living would be. Was an
Correct.
easy number to just subjectly put in.
mhm. Yeah. So,
So let's wait and see.
yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Navis. Appreciate it.
The March break program at the library was incredible. Like, I don't know how they didn't have to put earplugs into their budget because there was 30 kids a day in there. Like mini putt one day, there was like mini putt through, it was incredible. The work was, it was,
I can,
and, oh, yeah. Yeah. it
thank
was
you,
amazing.
Dorothy. Thank you, Dorothy. And I will add to this, to my two seconds here, is that right now, I would love for the 3 municipalities to pass the revised budget with the changes that will come in a week or so. Because I would like to retain the staff that I have right now. I want to make sure that they do not go anywhere, and we all know that the way to retain your staff is by compensating them for their talent and their time and their efforts. And the staff that I have right now is magnificent, and I would love to keep them
And
for
the,
a few years
So
to
the
go.
board has increased the hours by 5 hours, I believe.
fantastic. The cupcake decorating day, they also had like a retired science teacher in and they did it science experiments, but on the cupcake, she had used a Cricut to cut out papers to go around every single cupcake. And then Nancy, the new counselor for Berks Falls, baked all these cupcakes, and the library board members, I think, baked some cupcakes. It was, I was in awe. I was like, I would like to make one. These are incredible. Like, it was fantastic.
Thank you.
Thanks, Davis. Anything else, Rod, on that? No. Okay. Next up, we have a mayor's meeting on the 13th of March here in Armour. It's our quarterly meeting, although we missed the last quarter, I believe. I think we had 8 out of 10 of the municipalities. We always invite Linda Carlton and Jim Coleman, but don't necessarily expect it to be there. Jim has been at the meetings. Linda never comes.
Sure, where are they from?
Backer and South River. So we do all 12 municipalities, and typically it's 10, but I think we had 8%. It was a good meeting. It was more to get kind of reacquainted and talk about stuff that is impacting us regionally. So tariffs came up, and Tim talked quite a bit after his CBC interview. He talked quite a bit about the potential impact of the tariffs. And then we talked about regional assets as well, and which kind of led to something that I didn't propose yet, but that I'd like to propose at some point, is that from a regional perspective, we start looking at things like the assets that we have. So it kind of tweaked it when I went down to Perry and saw what they're doing with their outdoor rink. And the fact that there's 3 arenas in the Almaguin Highlands that were all built at the same time, basically, and they're all going to die at the same time. So how are we ever going to, there's no way we're putting 3 new arenas in. It's just not going to happen.
Be a double rink.
So you have to think about, okay, we probably need a double rink. Where does it go? And that's a 20-year plan. So I'd like to get that kind of discussion going at that level. Start looking ahead, but that's for a future meeting. But it was a good session. Dave sat in and there were no fisticuffs.
No, it was, the conversation was pretty good across the morning.
Yeah.
Can I just add one thing to it that was brought up at the clerk's meeting?
Yeah.
So the following week, we had our clerk's meeting, and one of the topics from the mayor's meetings that was brought up was a discussion about ensuring funds for the new hospital build is committed. And what clerks had discussed was the possibility of setting up a trust account. So between the member from the hospital
Excellent.
and the township, but we're gonna look into legal. So
Yeah.
basically with the election coming up, if there's a changeover in council members, to ensure that the funds that are committed stay committed.
When I spoke with John after that, he had mentioned that the other option you could look at is having an agreement around a shared investment, like a one investment or something along those lines. So there could be a couple of avenues that you go, either open a trust fund or have an agreement for and have one municipality steward the investment on behalf of all partners under agreement.
They were looking at trying to get some legal advice.
That's a great idea, because Sam brought up the fact that what they were thinking of doing is just making a donation to the hospital foundation before the end of the term to make sure that the money goes for that. But I'm not sure how that would work. And we'd have to have it, because this is local share money and you have to allocate it for local share. I think if you do it as a donation,
I like it better to,
the trust fund idea makes perfect
I
sense.
like that.
Yeah, and
That's
just the fact that
a
it's,
good idea.
the fact that the clerks are talking about it and the politicians are not talking about it is perfect. Because
The idea of the trust fund too, because you're gonna have somebody from the hospital, right?
Yeah,
And because even with an agreement can be
Changed.
terminated, changed, but with a trust fund, especially with someone with a hospital, they mentioned.
yeah. So either, well, you could have Catherine from the hospital foundation or Cheryl from the hospital themselves or her designate. That's a great idea, Shay. I think that'd be awesome.
Just get some input from Ed on it.
Yeah.
And you can take it back to the next mayor's meeting.
Yeah, that's great. Good.
High school and Bracebridge High School went to OFSA for swimming, and I thought maybe we need a new rink / pool right by the high school.
Hey, Marty.
Well, it would be a lot of municipalities. We're building a new rink anyway. Might be a great location.
Someday, but back in the day when Marty sat in the chair, I think it was like $1 million.
Yeah, we went up to Sturgeon and looked and got all their financial information.
Yeah, it's expensive
But
to maintain.
absolutely. The school is running a phenomenal hockey program. I wonder if the $4 million rink option would be an option at the high school.
Might be,
Because then they could, anyway, but
even for practices or something.
yeah, because every single, well, no, sorry, 2 days a week for the school year, they are bused. And currently they're being bused to Brooks Falls and Sundridge because the South River Arena is being.
Yeah. Next up, we have the Ag Society from March 20th.
Fair's going well. It was just a reporting session of what's going on. Actually, Brant came, made a presentation offering something else to happen on the Labor Day weekend. Sort of like, it's the bikers, I can't remember what she called it, but it was like a spin-off of Port Dover that goes on up in Kirkland Lake. New Liskard, that's where it was, and they're wanting to do something somewhere in between. And her contacts, or however it was, she threw it Berks Falls. I think the Agricultural Society invited that group down to sit down and say, what do you want? What do you need? Like, you're not getting anything from us, but the lands are there. They're not used on Saturday. And give them an idea of.
Port Dover's like 100,000 bikes, isn't it?
Yeah, well, their numbers are saying 30,000. I was like,
Well,
you're not, I mean, the first event will never be what you think, but I mean, they're just trying to bring something else in on Labor Day weekend. And if it won't be compatible with the fair, they're gonna do it another weekend. Just planning for the fair. We have our bouncies booked, ready to go. That's what that is. I'm gonna take a picture of that and send it to you.
It's a full weekend.
Pardon?
It's a full weekend again this year.
Well, fair's Monday. And that's the thing was, but the problem with what I actually was presenting. It's not totally vacant because the vendors, like the exhibitors bring their stuff in then.
Yeah.
So it's not entirely empty, and the fact that I made arrangements for the stage, the same as Charlene gets for the Heritage Day. He wants to drop it off Wednesday or Thursday in the park. So I said, well, it's in the parking lot, but we can push it to one side versus where I we usually put it, but there's.
we had horse stuff going on Saturday last year.
Yeah, there's horse stuff, but it's very confined to the horse people. I mean, I'm not saying it wasn't attended well, but the general public didn't know it was there. It was basically just people with the horses and their family came to support it.
Was it 4,000 people that came to Heritage Day last year?
That's what they're saying.
Okay.
I would say between 2 to 3.
So it was packed at 3,000 people.
We counted 1,800 people coming through just the main gate, and that didn't include the exhibitors that were already in and people that came in from all other entrances. Like there was people parking up at the Legion all day and coming in around the back. So I don't think 3,000 would have been unreasonable.
So 3,000, but that space was packed with 3,000 coming and going, right?
So they're talking, so this white thing, they're talking about closing Young Street down.
You'd have to have like detours, right?
Yep.
Somebody's gonna have to go to the landfill that day. You can be sure of it.
Well, the other thing is, like, the other conundrum is imagine somebody bringing a 30 or 40-foot horse trailer off of Houston Street, down Queen Street to the arena, like they'd have to go to the east end down with Whitmouse. But I mean, I can't see that
They did it.
possibility.
They did it with tractor trailers during the big dig in 2018.
Yeah.
They had to reroute all the traffic in through side
right.
streets from the north. Sorry, coming from the south, heading north. It wasn't ideal.
No, I don't think it'll go over real well. I mean, there'll be a lot of pushback, but I mean, that's what that was what they proposed, was shutting down Young Street.
Oh, not even into bikes. I guessed exactly right. 100,000 people go to Port Dover, so.
Oh, easy, I've been there. Like you can't even, they don't allow vehicles at all in Port Dover.
Yeah.
So once you get to the border, like there's only a couple, you gotta go park on side streets. The whole main downtown is strictly bikes. And there's no colors allowed or anything like that, but it's very limited parking if anybody has a vehicle.
They have to bust them in, don't they?
I think now it's busing,
And they bust them in.
yeah.
So just listening to that. The numbers that go to the fair plug up the Legion parking lot and Young Street. If they're gonna have X amount of thousand people come into town, where are they gonna put them?
And where are you gonna
Where
sleep?
Where are they gonna eat?
That's right.
I'm gonna be flipping.
And washroom.
It's just, I mean,
You're gonna need to bring more than you bring to the fair.
it's just another avenue, but I never thought of it, you just mentioned it now. Realistically, where will they put people? Where would people put their car? If you can't park at the racetrack and you can't get to the arena.
It's 10 fairs. 10 fairs. Not one.
Yeah, it's the equivalent of 10
Yeah.
times
Yeah,
what
so
came to
the-
at 30,000. It's,
the amount of people that potentially will come to the village, where are they gonna put their cars? Realistically, you can't park them on the side streets because they're gonna be detours.
and people live there.
What are you gonna do with the local traffic if you're
Yeah.
shutting down Young Street?
They're gonna run them around Queen Street.
Well, Elm Street and Mary Street shot, Fellow Homes is shot.
Oh, I don't think it's been thought through, really. And like I said, not until you put the numbers and putting where people park. Where are people gonna park to do this?
Amsdale Airport.
And where are they gonna go to the bathroom? We don't have 30,000.
Maybe
Well, for
Porta potties.
30,000 people, you take up all near north.
Could be a night thing.
Station.
Like that's 10,000 porta potties? Well, no, 30,000 people wouldn't be 10, no. So you're gonna need 500 porta.
It hasn't been thought out entirely. I told Wilm I want to be part of the conversation when they meet with them.
Interesting.
It'd be interesting. Be a fly on the wall.
Yeah. Okay. Any other reports that we've missed?
Had a nice little meeting with the community hatchery here last night and things are progressing very well. And I finished a order for a scientific study to be able to introduce walleye to a lake that doesn't have any.
Wow.
So that's a big win. If we've already been told that we perhaps will have this and make it happen. But we had to do our homework and that got done today, so. Just waiting on that. 4 of us went down to Sportsman Show. Wore our shirts, ended up with 4 volunteers. Amsdale, Novar. And a couple from Burks Falls. Might run into Haven and Chris.
So they're volunteers
The
now.
volunteer fishermen. That I told, please don't post your pictures on the lakes, everybody, I know where you are. And anyways, all of them good and what have we found out? I've been a proponent of asking the ministry to have an online app where they could say, I'm in this lake, I got this fish, I fished this long. Lo and behold, we got talking to Fish Online and they already have an app. Then whenever there's tournaments, so there's other apps you can have too. So if we can get this going a little farther, I'm not gonna let this, I want this app for our community hatchery to be able to gather that information. And out of that, get the lake associations of the lakes around here to start using that.
So they can use it.
And that way, it'll really benefit us on a 10-year program going forward, so. Now we got a change of ministers, Graydon has moved on. And young Harris has taken over,
Mike Junior.
Mike Junior, so, yeah.
What is Graydon's new portfolio?
Associate leader of
Affordable housing as an assistant minister. of
Yeah.
affordable housing.
Yeah. Housing and Municipal Affairs. Actually, the Municipal Affairs thing might come in handy.
Yeah. So,
Tim.
and I go, oh,
Mhm.
that could work very well in our area coming up here right now too, so. And it didn't hurt us doing the 200-foot housing, that might come in handy too, so.
Yeah.
For grade, so. Anyways, really progressing well, and I was in earlier today and asked Dave if we're gonna meet here with our hatchery group, because we're having problems finding a spot to go, and everybody seemed okay to come here, so. Try to keep it neat and tidy. If it's not, please let me know. Sure, it'll be fine. Thank Dave for allowing us to be here.
Just wait until they discover the ice cream sandwiches and free.
I didn't, nobody went in there. I brought in iced tea. Somebody else brought in some home baked goods. So there's only 8 of us total, but there were 7 of us here, and one of the lads, we just did speakerphone off my cell phone, and it worked out. So everybody's happy.
That's good. Okay, any other reports?
The VSAP was canceled, so that was up and there.
All right, 16 through 22 correspondence, but we do have at least one resolution, maybe 2.
One.
Just one. Council Township of Armour, approve a donation in the amount of blank to the Salvation Army to support work they do in our community. Looks like, was 2022 the last time we gave to them?
Yes.
Okay, so we gave $250 in 2022. So whoever moves can.
I would
make
put
a
400.
400,
I'll second that.
so we have a 400,
In honor of Marty. That was one of Marty's
one of his favorites.
favorite charities.
Okay, moved by Rod, seconded by Jerry for $400. All those in favor? That's carried. Okay, correspondence, labor market force in there. The hospital temporary closure of the obstetrics, we talked about that already, right? I think that came up in our last meeting. 4 new measles cases. I heard there were another 7 in North there. I
Haven't got that release yet.
think they're up to 11 now. That was just like late breaking news. I saw Carol Zimbalati on the news. The board's new cabinet. Just seems to get bigger all the time. And
34 or something, wasn't it? Something like that.
37, I think he's.
37?
Yeah.
Just on item 17, the encampment response plan, just wanted to make a note that that is being brought up at the clerks and treasurers meeting. We had talked about revisiting the Almaguin community and well-being, wellness and well-being plan that was disseminated back in 2021, 2022. It's time for a review of that. So I've jumped on board to help out with that review. But that is being brought up at the table. I think we have our first just kind of ad hoc meeting tomorrow to figure out where all of our data is coming from. So,
Harry and Brooks Falls were heavily involved with the first round of that, so.
yeah. So there's Carney is jumping on board to help out this time. Beth as well, and I cast my lot in just because I was part of gathering all the data, and they figured with ties in. Yeah, look at this smile. Look at this smile.
Him and a survey monkey got him roped into it.
Well, I did the Survey Monkey for the original one, and apparently was the keeper of the data.
That's what you get for speaking up, man. I don't feel sorry for you.
I'm strategically going to throw Shard of the Wolves at the next one. She was really excited about this.
They'll know.
Anyway, so yeah, that's coming on the pipe. Sorry, I didn't mean to belabor that.
Good. Thank you. Next up, we've got some resolutions from our surrounding municipalities. Township of Ryerson has passed the. Did they just do all three in one? Oh, yeah, they did, okay. No, they didn't, okay. And Berks Falls passed them all as well.
So.
So they passed the
Yeah.
3% increase.
But they passed the library budget without
Oh,
increase to
they
the,
passed it with a 3% increase on the rent. Yeah.
Yeah.
That should make for an interesting conversation later, maybe.
Well, and if, are we getting a revised library?
I'm
budget?
gonna email her tomorrow to
Yeah,
ask her
okay.
what she's
So we'll
talking
leave it-
about.
You'll get it sorted out.
I think this revised with the 5% increase, or 5 hours increase for the staff.
For the staff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're not. Oh, no, they did increase it to 5. They gave in and said, we'll accept the 5% increase, but we want it to be worded 3.
Sure, but-
All the words need to be in
But
place.
the 5 hours a week increase to the one staff, right? Did you know?
It's 5 hours, 5 extra hours, I believe, in wages.
Mhm.
And there's, I think somebody's getting 4 and somebody's getting 1,
Okay,
or somebody's getting 5 and somebody's getting 1, but I just use 5 as it's been stuck in my head.
so that would be the budget increase or the budget change. But
Yeah, I'm gonna
And the increase,
email Nieves tomorrow to find out what she's talking about for a budget increase.
and it'd be that this has a 3% rent increase.
Well, that's
They-
the
they
budget
agreed to
we all
5.
passed.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, the board agreed to go to 5, and I just thought of it now, they should have just left it alone till next year, but anyway.
But if they agree to go to 5, but we've already agreed to our budget,
Well,
where are they gonna get the-
Pass that budget, it may not be fine. We're kind of making a point.
You're making a point. Okay, item 26 is kind of interesting. So the Village of Berks Falls supports option 2 helical piles. We're not,
so the $300,000.
$300,000 they support, but we're not sure who's paying for it, so. I guess that begs the next question, to your point last meeting.
So, yeah. And we put in the pile, so I do believe that our projected build included some sort of foundation. Didn't say what. So that would be, honestly, that should be, part of that would be the actual build.
Right.
But,
But we've only got $625,000 to build with. So they've agreed that this is what we're gonna do, but nobody's agreed to who's paying for what.
so the building committee, fundraising committee are gonna start going after corporate donations. Joe's got a good idea. I think he's gonna accomplish what he's gonna set out. I think it's gonna cause a bit of grief. Listen, yeah, it says, I think the heads of council and staff, the 6 of them need to sit down with the library board and have a conversation.
I agree.
Like they're drafted up a letter presented, I believe they presented it to Berks Falls about how to apply for funding. Like, we can't be applying for the same funding. If the board is, like, Armour Township was asked to look after the project. If there's $20 to be asked for, I presume we'll ask. We can't be double dip trying, having the other building committee applying for the same funding.
Well, and it's not just that. If
There's a
you,
law.
when you read the Library Act, it's pretty clear what the board's accountability is and what it's not. And what it's not is building buildings and making decisions about capital investments in buildings, because it's
On behalf of municipalities.
on behalf of the municipalities. Because how can volunteer board members spend the money of taxpayers? It just doesn't make any sense. That's what we were voted in to do. So it should be the municipalities driving that part of it. And the board's focus should be on what does the library need to look like? Like, how do they need to run? What are the things they might need? That's fine. But not deciding what the location is going to be or deciding how it's going to be built, or, and even the raising of the funds. That question.
So this alludes to my conversation I had with certain people, is we've all agreed that when we say we, the three municipalities all agreed that ownership will be based on percentage of funds contributed. Now, while I was sitting to the library meeting, I was thinking more about what was being said. The library's contributed $12,500, so they should be entitled to ownership. According to what we had made.
Like 1% or half of a percent at
It's gonna be
$12,000. Yeah.
nothing.
Mhm.
It's gonna be a conundrum. Now, let's just put it in perspective. If Joe does his homework and he gets corporates funding, and let's just say he comes up with another $50,000, which he believes is gonna be easy to do. Now they've given 50% of what Ryerson has. They're well entitled to ownership. So I think we're into a lot of trouble. This is getting to be a conundrum, I think.
I just wonder what do we do with a resolution that says this is what we choose? We choose this. We need three municipalities to choose the same moving forward option. And then if every one of us said, yep, we all agree to this option two, then what?
But, well, this actually doesn't mean anything. This is like saying, I agree to gray colored bricks on the outside.
Yeah. Yes.
Like, it doesn't.
I support it, but
Yeah.
there's no money out of it.
Yeah.
So
And the sample resolutions that were in the staff report, so this was part of one of the options that's come back. So presumably they've chosen option one, which is to continue as is, like their preference is to continue as is on that site and pick option two for the helical piers. But
Yeah.
so my thought being is that if you take the excerpt of the sample resolution that came from, they're saying continue as is. The other part about that is I think everybody saw all of the drawings of the property. There's some pretty substantial servicing infrastructure that runs directly through both laterally and horizontally, or vertically and horizontally. Well, no. Anyway, in both directions. And you're gonna start poking big screw piles over top of existing infrastructure and putting a foundation on it.
but we,
Nieves' resolution, or the wording that Nieves got, it actually says helical piles over top of existing infrastructure.
Hmm.
Now that's.
If we had the money to move
we
forward.
don't actually have the money to get a shovel yet.
Hmm.
So it's fantastic. We know your, and wonderful that we know your intention.
It's my
To have a discussion about how this is being paid for.
It's come to my attention that the library board is going to request a meeting with Armour Township to move the project along.
But we need a financial commitment that, like, we can't.
Be an interesting time to have that conversation.
But we can't really, like, even with our $500,000, I think that's a generous contribution for our municipality, but we're not building anything for $500,000.
Right.
We're not building anything for $650.
So I think the municipal reps, whether that's with the CAO clerks and or the heads of council, need to have a refresher on that library agreement. And then get a consensus amongst that group and then go to the board and say,
This is what we're doing.
this is what we're doing, like the board, this is what your focus should be. And capital projects is not your focus.
This is our lane, this is your lane.
But
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what,
with that,
that's my concern is we should, the big concern was, oh, that's the other conversation. Joe was adamant that we own part of the building because we paid $12,500.
We better get that-
Nobody,
that-
we haven't, there's been no money, right?
which at this point, it's 25%.
It's three municipalities should thank the library board for their interest. And I was shocked when Nieves upped that $12,500 at the tri-council meeting. I was shocked because she wanted to bring it up to show good faith that we've been saving money and doing this. That here's our money, we put our money where our mouth is. I over and over and over, I've asked her to keep that, don't bring that up. And my assumption is the three municipalities build the building, we don't have a fourth partner with that owns a spot. And tell the library board, if you want to put in red chairs versus blue chair, like save your money for the added things that we're gonna give you a building, but how you decorate it is gonna be your choice. And I really believe this needs to happen sooner than later to put everybody on track.
I agree.
It's like our whole meeting was spent on how there's gonna be committee delegate to come and visit Armour Township. And how we were going to start fundraising and like there's a field that we're a full-fledged. The library board is a full-fledged partner in this.
We even if they do substantial $50,000, we're still $2.5 million below what we need to build it.
I'm confident it's dead in the water. I've asked John for the last 3 or 4 months to bring it to the point where somebody says, no, I don't have any money. I need it to get to that stage to end the round and the conversation's going. Nobody wants to bring it to that stage. And it's either it's good or it's dead. I want to bring it dead to the table.
I think the last discussion or conversation or communication that went to the village was a request as to who's gonna do the groundwork, who's gonna cover the groundwork cost, right? With clearing the fill and that wasn't,
Shovel ready.
yeah, that wasn't. a-
Pylons, there won't be much of that.
Yeah, but the problem is that quote, when you read the report, says that those helical piles,
It's $300,000.
that's a quote for it, but there's no guarantee
Oh, yeah.
that that's gonna hit the bottom and then your cost is gonna go up.
Well, I agree with that. But their assumption is it's good as gold. And that's part of the foundation. There's the prep, it's gonna be hard to determine what is prep work unless they hit a rock and have to dig it up, right? The piles are a foundation. The foundation was built, whether it was traditional, a slab, that would have been part of the building. So the piles are part of the foundation.
Which is part of the 3 million,
Yeah,
but we don't have that.
but who's gonna pay for the part where the services should be addressed? And they may only have to be rerouted, but they're gonna have to be dug up and rerouted. That's a cost. That's not part of the building. That was never part of the assessed building.
And
So that's the prep work that they're avoiding.
we also
What is the prep work?
need a severance and ownership of the land.
It's my understanding that there hasn't been, unless it was brought up at the meeting last week, there wasn't any discussion at the time that we had met to chat about everything. There wasn't any discussion about direct investments into the project from the village at this point. Now, the library board asking for a commitment similar to what Ryerson and Burks Falls have done. That should bring the topic up on the table. But my understanding was that whether it was for the property preparations or the build itself, There was no discussions at that point as they were waiting to figure out what the game plan was for fundraising for the library, which based on this discussion, that should be a topic addressed by the 3 municipalities.
Yeah. How about the pile thing? If you do a slab on grade, do you still have to do that step to prep?
No, so there'd be more. There'd be more, I mean, they'd have to excavate the mud and shit,
Because everything's gotta come out and then they gotta,
and then you put it in.
And you put an engineered fill if you want to pour a slab without the piles.
yeah.
Look at it this way, your road's got a bunch of topsoil in it and clay and
So
You gotta get rid of
it's
it.
gotta be,
you gotta get rid of it.
regardless of what you do, there's gonna be something that has to prep. Joe's adamant, if we're gonna spend this much on piles, why don't we spend just a little bit more and have a basement, you can rent it out.
Well, it's all them pipes underneath.
Well, that was what Greystone recommended was engineered fill with a traditional foundation.
Yeah,
And I mean, the tradition, like, if you gotta get down there to move those pipes and everything anyway. And the other thing too is that there could be issues with the drainage tiles that are in there for the drainage line that's installed. So
Absolutely.
you open the earth up, figure out what's in there, re-engineer the fill. Or move the pipes, put the fill back in, and then you can build a foundation.
And then you'll have to do stormwater management and all that stuff too, because you're putting roofs and
yeah.
all kinds of
Interestingly,
drainage and all kinds of other stuff there, so.
helical piers are, so the 290 is the best case scenario. If they have to go down a certain point to where they reach their torque limits and they have to put extensions on, the cost goes up and up and up.
Yeah.
So I ran into that when they did my deck. But yeah, depending on how far they have to go down and how much extra steel they have to use, the cost can go up.
There's a lot of unknowns, but I think we need, I want to push this forward. As quickly, I know Dave has got 8 days worth of work ahead of him every day. But the longer it takes to have a conversation, like the more people get thinking about things, the more it gets derailed in my mind. 4 months ago, I think the general census was this, you're gonna get a building pretty much the way Perry did. Perry built a building, said, if you want to put your library in, how about it?
There it is.
And they all got around that stage and they've gone 180 degrees again. They're actually gonna send Dave a request that he puts in that he uses the library's architect that they use.
We recommend this guy.
Yeah, but because they used it when they had him to come down and look at our library, what can we do with it? They loved him. They loved his report. So Dave was gonna get a report or a request that when it comes time, you're gonna use this guy.
Yeah, so we have to squash this stuff quick.
Sounds like it's.
Or we need people to not, to commit to what they're paying, so we know if this is even a conversation that we have.
And it has to be an honest conversation between the three partners. It says, we don't have the money to do this. Okay, it's off the table. It's not a priority.
Just, that's all I'm asking. I mean, I said to John 6 months ago, I said, just like, push this forward. Do what you have to do to make it to the point where we have to commit. And if people say, well, we'll commit if you can find 70% funding, well, that's not committing anything. You're gonna commit whether you find funding or not. If we get funding, it's a godsend. But if we don't find funding, are you gonna pony up?
Please forgive me for not memorizing the entire budget. In the budget, is there $500,000 for the new library build? And I would guess it's not in the budget for the other two municipalities either.
It's not happening this year anyway.
Yeah, it wasn't happening in 2025.
We haven't even agreed
We haven't even agreed.
to
where
do
it's going.
something. So like, there's no,
Files for choosing.
I just mean, the longer this takes.
Yeah, we gotta have to move because we still got new business and a close to go through. Okay, 27 is the interesting resolution, so I had a discussion with Mr. Burton actually this last week, who's been going around doing delegations. I was a little concerned about another municipality making a comment on an application in our municipality.
And I'm sure they don't even understand what it's about.
No, it just struck me as kind of, the point was made that if they officially do this, then they could go to the OLT if there's an appeal needed and they could fight it. So I kind of get that. But they sit on the planning board. So I don't know. I was gonna ask if anybody else found it a bit strange, but
Well,
they're entitled to their opinion, but it just,
I think it's a group. It's a group that's motivated, who's leading the group, comes from a political background. And
Yeah.
understands that these guys don't have any teeth to stop it, but the municipalities and the public bodies do.
I believe
That's my impression.
something similar is being requested of Perry Township.
Perry and Ryerson,
Yeah, Perry and Ryerson,
Yeah.
and I believe Carney's on the list as well.
Carney's on there too.
Wasn't
Yeah.
Magnetown on the list too?
Yeah, Magnetown.
Yeah,
But-
it's a very vocal group, so I'm not on social media, but I get to hear about it.
Yeah.
I think there's a,
I've seen lots of the misinformation on Facebook.
but if somebody applied to build something in Perry, that we didn't agree with, would we be able to?
yes. because
Formally
it's part of
tell
the
her.
Circulation, so these guys would have received a copy of our notice of complete application. All the neighboring municipalities receive it.
Okay, okay, thank
It
you.
goes all the way up to Strong's, Sundridge.
Okay.
We get notification about other municipalities that are amending their official plan. We can review it, we can provide comments as
So
well.
that's fair.
It's part of the planning act.
I just thought it wouldn't occur to me to say, I don't think you should build that in Perry Township, but
The question for me isn't so much could we do it, it's would we do it? And I'm not sure. I'd certainly be having a conversation with them before I would do it.
Yeah.
Because we're already taking a lot of heat about this and we haven't done anything.
we've simply accepted an application.
Application, we haven't,
Haven't even seen it.
That's what I've been
Yes.
explaining to people. The people think it's happening and we permitted it.
but they basically, we're the villain here. They've demonized the company. And we don't know, we really don't know we haven't heard all the information as a council yet. And the province is pushing for these things to get done. But it's, I don't know, I just find it's been a lot of negativity. And this just adds to it and kind of feels like a shot when it wasn't, I don't think it was necessary. But
See, a lot of the majority of the people out there, you go on Facebook, they think it's where all the battery dumped. Or don't.
yeah,
It's a storage area.
A lot of misinformation.
and every picture is the fire in the middle of a
Yeah.
best system and
But at this time, Armour hasn't done anything short of been in conversation with somebody who has a contract.
No, they signed a lease.
That's not with us.
No, it's not with us, but yeah, as it stands right now, they submitted the application and the reports. We're getting them all peer reviewed and I expect them to start coming in the next week. And then from there, if there's deficiencies or questions, then the company will have an opportunity to respond. And then once that's satisfied, then the application will come to council. At that point, you guys can decide whether you refuse it or whether you accept it. And if you accept it, that's when we move forward with the public notice and all the other stuff.
it goes through the planning board and
No, well, once that's
For the-
approved, then yeah, the planning board would be involved in it. But I suspect that based on this group with getting their teeth, that even if we did the OPA and the ZBA, it's gonna end up being appealed either way. in my opinion.
but at some point along the way, can we not say we'll allow best systems, just not at that location? It's gotta be in a specific zone.
That's not what they have with IESO. IESO was very prescriptive on their
Did they
application.
pick that application because they already had solar there
Yeah.
and they were tying into the lines?
No, and they just like the location. Doesn't have anything
Well,
to do with
that's-
solars.
Well, that's not what the guy said when he was here. Because they were marrying into the lines.
Not, it's.
No, no.
Hooked up to hydro.
No. When they were adding to the lines, they were piggybacking on the solar panel, but they weren't solar panels are not chargeable. There was a way of disconnect.
They're not connected
my
to the solar
understanding.
at all. They're not connected to the solar at all.
No, but they're connected to the lines that the solar are. And they use that location because it's to their benefit.
Okay, because a lot of people think that they're part of the solar.
No, it's not part of the solar.
It's just a convenient location.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, to what Jerry said, so it's part of the infrastructure. They don't have to build, it's there.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, it's gonna be interesting to see where it goes. It's just lots of, lots of noise, that's for sure. Okay, next up, some new business, informal shared services committee appointment. So Berks Falls and Ryerson, has Ryerson passed theirs?
Tonight, that goes to their council tonight.
So, oh, sorry.
So we have a resolution that we can talk about. Whereas the Township of Armour is committed to ensuring the availability of quality services to its residents. And whereas the township recognizes the value of partnering with neighboring municipalities to increase efficiencies and reduce costs. Now therefore be it resolved that the Township of Armour hereby appoint blank to represent the township in an informal shared services committee with tri-council partners. Furthermore, that the CAO attend these meetings and support the gathering of information related to committee discussions.
So please forgive me. Is this not what try is?
No,
No.
What,
in a sense, but it's an informative fact finding.
so it's like sharing information one-on-one with the other two municipalities?
To have more frank, open discussion that we don't get at tri-council. So I see this committee doing their work and then coming back to each of their councils and saying, either this is what we recommend, or this is what we want to look into or study, or this is an idea that's come forward for the 3 municipalities to consider.
Even simpler than that. What ends up happening is we have the tri-committee discussions. Everybody goes back to their council tables and debates different parts of the same issues. They all go off in separate paths, come back, realize how far apart they are, and then spend another 3 months cycle being like, well, I can't believe that, all of this isn't solved. Well, the whole idea is that discussions that happen at council meetings in between are that information is being shared, so we can kind of work where everybody is at with all of the decisions around shared services. A lot of it stems down from the decision made on January 14th. And I think that's going to be Armour's opportunity to bring any, I guess, requests for adjustment or requests for consideration based on, say, the library agreement or the other shared services agreements. In fairness to the municipalities, using the library as one point of consideration, we want to talk about future planning. It's hard to talk about future planning when, although Armour Council has passed a resolution saying we'll contribute our share, it's pretty easy to rescind a resolution. So they can't count that. A good business practice wouldn't be to count that as a check, that's or as cash in the bank. They have to be prepared for what if Armour gets upset and yanks that resolution out, and now we have to figure out who we're laying off or whatever we have to do to operate the library as is. So the idea is to discuss any concerns that any of the partners have and bring that back to councils on a more frequent than quarterly cycle. And again, to open up, the informal part is to have those frank conversations and bring up issues that may continuously recirculate at council meetings, but never make their way back to the tri-committee board.
And that's exactly, when I started going to Berks Falls council meetings, I knew they were going to discuss something. It was going to affect me at the library. It was going to affect me at the Agriculture Society. I knew what they discussed or what they didn't discuss, so I knew what path was being taken or not taken. So honestly, I was doing what Dave just said for my own personal thoughts. I wanted to see what they're doing. I've done the same with Ryerson. I've gone out to hear what they've had to say about certain things. And they've asked me to speak on certain things. I said, no, I'm just here to hear what your opinion is. I said, if you need some information, I'll give it to you, but I'm not here to make a presentation. So it's exactly what Dave just described. if there's something on Birch Falls agenda, the library, of the Agricultural Society. It was take the ice out or not take the ice out. I was at their meetings. I wanted to hear what they were talking about, and I didn't want to wait 6 weeks. It's amazing the information you get, Dorothy, if you're sitting there. Like, it's like we know what they're thinking.
I'm interested in sitting on this committee.
It can only speed things up.
Yeah. I think Wendy'd be a good candidate.
And certainly bring the voice of, decades of
The
partnerships.
experience.
Well, I can relate to back to when we used to have
Try council or try meetings.
Yeah.
or-
each service. had its
Board.
own committee.
Yeah,
We
board.
met monthly and yeah, we went away from that to see if we could become more efficient. But what we lost is good communication.
Lost the contact, yeah.
So I think this might be a step in the right direction. All we can do is try and see if it helps the situation.
And I'm willing to live with the word informal, but it makes me a little uncomfortable. I prefer to see the direction being that the terms of reference is created for this group, similar to what we have for the Health Council. Because the Health Council doesn't pass anything.
Yeah.
They just bring information back to the councils. But they do have a terms of reference. I think maybe early on, that would be a good thing to.
Yeah, I think
discuss.
we'd have to get a meeting maybe again, and the meeting frequency may be a little bit more enhanced as it usually is with the formation of something new.
Yeah,
But we'll have to, I think, assess the compatibility of everybody that's there and
yeah,
and
that's
make,
part of it too.
and make sure that things can move forward. Or we could just as easily get talking to things, and realize, okay, there's significant matters that need to be discussed. Maybe we need to structure this in a way that expedites things. Who knows, right? Like you go a lot of different directions out of the
We
gate.
need to get a better sense of whether or not we need
Yeah.
to formalize a term. A term of reference is a good idea, so you certainly have
But from transparency perspective and setting expectations in terms of reference is a good place to start. I think similar to the conversations that we had leading up to the tri-committee, it's nice to get the lay of the land without having to necessarily go too formal and then introduce that in the
Yeah, no, I
first
get
3 to
that.
4 meetings.
I get that. Okay, so we read the resolution, but we're gonna add Wendy's name in here.
You're approved for punishment.
sleeps over.
You're pretty good at making coffee though.
Can I get a mover?
I will.
You have everybody's vote of confidence.
I'm gonna give it to Rod. And Dorothy, I'll give you the second.
Is that what you had?
Yeah.
Sure.
Not even close.
Okay, all those in favor?
In there, didn't it?
I had to type Rod.
Welcome to your new committee. Wendy,
Thanks.
the pay increase will be in the. Okay, Village of Burke's Falls Shared Services Informal Committee. Okay, that's just the resolution from, hold on. So that's it. I think we're through everything.
Oh, no, there's the staff report from bylaw.
Oh, bylaw, amps. Okay,
Charlene's favorite topic.
I'll read it in and then we can discuss. Staff report dated March 25th, 2025 regarding the implementation of an administrative monetary penalty system, AMPS, be received and direct staff to create an administrative monetary penalty system bylaw and a screening and hearing officer bylaw for council approval. A mover. Sure. Rod, seconder. Dorothy. So Charlene.
So this has been something that's been going on for well over a year. Jay and Bry have met with all of the municipalities about trying to implement an AMP that's across the board. Basically, it removes everything from going to the courts, but it still leaves the option to go to the courts if you want to. The only bylaw that would not allow for that would be parking. Parking is very specific. It can either be AMPS or POA. You can't do both. So we're leaving parking out. Every fee that Jay's that's got listed is $300. So there's no flipping around trying to guess. It's just a flat $300. With that, it's people get the ticket. They have 15 days to pay. If they want to appeal it, there's they have two, though they can basically have two options. The first one is they can ask for a screening officer. So a screening officer is going to be appointed. There's 3 people that that I've chosen, at the front, so including Ally, so it'll be Ally, Kayla, and Ashley. I cannot because I'm involved with bylaws, so I can't be a screening officer. They basically would have the opportunity to meet with people. They can tell them, no, you gotta pay it. They can reduce it, they can cancel it. The discretion's up to them. If they don't agree with, the reduction or whatever, they have the option of asking for a hearing officer. So a hearing officer would go to our paralegal, where the cost we expect will roughly be about the same as what you're paying right now, $2,000 a year for Deb. And with this, we figured that with the process would be set up through Zoom, so Deb wouldn't be looking at doing any mileage or having to deal with the courts at all. She just basically meets with them, the same option. Whatever Deb decides, that's final. So it's gonna streamline a lot of things. It's gonna alleviate things from the courts. It's gonna make things a lot more efficient. Jay and Bri have listed the bylaws. I wanted to come forward with the staff report because the draft bylaw right now is 67 pages long. So with that, the bylaw itself is only 10 pages long, but it's the schedules that attach. So when you have like the dog bylaw, right? And now when you've got an amendment to the dog bylaw, right? With the dog licensing where you add that in at the back, so we're not revising all these bylaws.
But who's the victim with the dog at large?
So they get a ticket for the dog running at large.
But it says 240 goes to the township. Township gets 200, 35 is allocated to victims of the crime and 5 is retained by the court.
Victims of the crime, that's just a standard fee that with courts right now. So if you get found,
That's the
if you're
victim.
convicted,
Yeah.
Oh, victim service. Oh, so that would not be what we do. That was historically done. Okay, because I was like, we're like,
Give it to the dog.
yeah, like I was like, the poor dog, here's a leash. Yeah.
so that's currently what happens with.
Oh, sorry, thank you. Okay.
By going administrative penalties, we keep it all.
So my question is how, like in the last couple of years, how many tickets have we dealt with through the?
It's not, but it's given them the option. It's just streamlining everything. And then Jay and Bri, they can, just be done with it instead of chasing people around and, we still got the option of. He doesn't suspect that it's gonna go up at all. It's just gonna take things out of the court. So what's happening is when they take stuff and they file it at the courts, so far twice in less than 6 months, they've lost all the paperwork. They had a court case that was going on for over a year. They went there, the courts lost all the file. So it's just such a waste, right? So the amount of time that those boys spend driving out to Perry Sound to file things and whatnot, it's just easier. if
We
they
don't
can-
have that many, do we? In a year, would we have more than?
No,
3 or
it's
4?
pretty much the same one. No, forget it.
Yeah.
My question too is what happens with pay equity wise if Ashley and Kayla now have this new role?
It's not gonna be much. I mean, it's just more as duties as assigned.
So it's,
It
okay,
shouldn't change anything because
but they're becoming judges.
the number of people that are gonna come in with, like, it's not like our bylaw is gonna go write all these fines all of a sudden because we have this new bylaw.
But even if they write any, like I,
It's only if someone comes in and wants to fight it.
So here's the option, what we can do is I can bring you forward the draft bylaw and stuff, and then you guys take a boo at it. If you guys want to do some sort of a community awareness, a public meeting, give people the opportunity to be given a heads up that this is coming. But this is a regional approach. So Magneto already implemented. I think Sundridge already has it. Ryerson's very close, so.
I just don't,
It's not new then. It's not like we're pushing something down.
I just don't love this for Kayla and Ashley. I think that makes things very awkward when you're like, I am now.
Oh, they're all game for it. I already appointed them.
Just because you're into them doing it, doesn't mean they're into it.
But if they perceive that they're gonna get paid more because they now have.
Not only, no, but and they will get paid more. When we do pay equity in 5 years and they can include this, absolutely, they're going to. I also think it's gonna be awkward when they go to the grocery store and they're like, that's the woman who wouldn't remove my fine, like.
Well, that's why
That's-
Ally's gonna be the first one out. Nobody's gonna argue with Ally.
You can take that on when they, like, lovely Ashley, hello, how are you today? I don't.
She's been helping out the bylaw guys. She's actually started a lot of the legwork for this. I
Okay,
met with Jay. So I think, once we streamline it, they're thinking about actually getting like ticket books that actually have all the logos on the top. I mean, it's an opportunity then for them to basically streamline the
So
process.
when you read this report, it's more about getting people to voluntarily comply as
Yeah.
opposed to paying out a bunch of things.
Oh, absolutely. Well, you know, our bylaw guys are not going out there to do that.
This mean I don't have to go to the POA meetings anymore?
Yeah.
Who's gonna be Judge Armour?
That's, well, it's Kayla and Ashley, the poor
No, no,
things.
they're just-
Oh, the judge, okay.
This, yeah.
I say that that's the shadow agenda for the video taping policy that we just passed.
Yeah,
The Judge Judy, Judge,
yeah. It's first thing I thought, pay report.
Judge Alley.
Okay, so we have a mover and a seconder. Any other questions? Jar on this one? Thanks for the summary. All those in favor? That's carried.
Boatload of work into it over the last little bit. Boatload.
Good job. All right, we have to go into closed. Think that's it now. That's why you had to stay around for the whole meeting, isn't it?
Good night.
Yeah, Albion.
Thanks for not spending my money all in one place.
Bye. Well done, Lee.
Okay,
7-2. Leaves 7-2.
they won.
If you wanna pass the motion going, I'll stop it.
That's the one to
Oh,
end the meeting. Must be in here.
I was already done.
Oh, here it is. Council of Township of Armour hereby move into closed at 9:49 PM. Under section 239(2)B of the municipal act to discuss personal matters about an identifiable individual, municipal or local board.
You still record the
No, I'm gonna close it. We'll just pass the resolution and move into close and then.
Mover,
pause, because you gotta.
Wendy,
Yep.
seconder. Dorothy, all those in favor? We're in close.
Muted.
Oh,
I just did it.
Wendy and
Oh,
Dorothy, all in favor of coming out of closed. We're
it's still muted. I touched it, but it's.
no, you can see the audio bumping up and down. I just haven't talked this out.
Oh, okay.
And there's no resolutions related to our discussion, so carry on as we have discussed in closed meeting. Council Township of Armour adjourn this regular council meeting at 10:16 PM. So the next regular council meeting scheduled for April 8th, 2025 are the mayor or clerk. Dorothy. Yep. Jerry, all those in favor of leaving?
Hello.
She was too busy. Thanks for hanging around, Ally.
Oh, no, yeah.
Sorry to